number one in the play-in, so let's see if they can continue that momentum as we head over to game one with Taco and Miniminer. Half the fun, after all, when it comes to this style of competition, though, Mini, is just trying to wager who is actually going to win. Not only the off spawn, which is just the starting half of the battle, but seeing who brings home the victory royale. And with only 5 lobbies to try and get the job done, time is running out for that battle bus. So let's see what happens here in the first lobby.
Officially it's time, chat.
Yeah, this is it. Their time is now. Last chance lobby, the last chance to qualify through to the Major 2 finals. And like you just alluded to there, Taco, a lot of these early contest stations are going to set the tone for the day. If you have a good day or a good off spawn at the beginning, you're likely to set yourself up to continue. So every single one of these players will be looking to not be sat out for the very first game right here. Of course, we've got our eyes on the big one. It's Savage and Truly against Tayson and Mustache.
But Tayson and Mustache, they are quick with it. The new drop mechanics have clearly voted out in their favor. Gas Station is going to be primarily in control of Savage and Truly, but with Mustache and Tayson having a little bit more central positioning, they're just waiting to see how long it takes. Truly, Savage already making their first move. Going to utilize full barrels along the way. But both of these teams, many definitely looking equipped to try and clash, and they know there needs to be a quick conclusion because it has kind of highlighted it, but you can always expect a third-party intervention, especially in this style of format. Chop Shop also getting a bit rowdy here. Kalari, maybe a bit of a nail-biter even, because it's not Hydra and Lithium outright that are actually going to be looking at challenging Skyjump and Mumsy.
Yeah, a little bit of a difference right here. So it seems as though Hedra and Lixium have had to make a little bit of a last-minute change. So Skyjump and Mumsy, of course, maybe bullying them off a little bit, but they're not uncontested with it. Truly and Savage getting involved in a little bit of a battle here as well against Mustache, who's now cracked. Savage on the wall, looking to try and get some damage on through. Can't quite find it as of yet, but they're getting so aggressive here. We knew this battle was going to boil over at some point, and now it just about has. They're maybe conscious of that third party looking to rotate on through. They're staying inside these buildings here, Taco, ensuring that they're not using too many angles from different areas and different teams from other perspectives. Truly here, it's a big day for him. Not a star-studded performance like we would have expected from him when it comes to the heats. Hopefully they can fix themselves up today and, of course, firstly win this off spawn, but get that win as well. It's a nice shot there from Mustache just to turn the tides in this fight, looking to try and make their way up if they can, which Mustache does. Savage looking on the wall, takes as well inside the box, takes him down. Mustache is in the box as well, takes down Truly. Now it's all up to Savage, who closes out the fight so well, and that's what the experience can do here.
And that was a great protective angle as well from Savage. Even from the get-go, when Tayson initially had that rooftop control, Savage did a great job just pushing them back down to the low ground. But you see, okay, they might be the first to strike here at Chop Shop, and that's going to be the end of the road for lobby number 1. Skyjump and Mumsy are just going to have to look to reevaluate how this off-ball might actually play out, and even getting a quick review where things went south. Mumsy just did not anticipate the wraparound from Thorfield. Just a great job at getting that surprise angle. Good distraction measure, too, coming out of Juicy to really punish Frenchies there, but they still have their work cut out for them. Frenzy making his way over with Cactus, and sure enough, Minnie, you can always expect someone to come after the fact to try and shut down any sort of opening.
take that first shot, who's going to make that angle for themselves. TTZ angling towards the vending machines here. Against Mr. Gold, he can potentially purchase one of those med kits, but doesn't look as though that's the case. Is he trying to maybe use those as bait? You can see he has the piece control on the wall. This is a slowish fight right now, but both teams know that losing off spawn here early on is going to be disastrous in terms of the way that this lobby plays out. Nice pieces though from Izzy trying to find an angle. Doesn't hit the shot, but gets a return shot from TZ to send him back to the lobby, and now waiting for the second game.
Yeah, I was really just hoping that that 180 would go his direction, not the other way around, but well played. It's easy to at least lock down. Right now, the initial drop map, the mini, seeming a little bit more suggestive than anything else, because there are a good amount of teams that have already kind of revealed their hands, and they have zero intentions of really allowing this lobby to find any sort of, I think, replayability. Everyone's just trying to do what they can to get out on the first go round. They don't want to keep having to take the risk, because with every single match that goes by, that's where you can kind of expect to see a little bit more of those on spawns. And again, just knowing that whoever does win in this game is going to essentially open up potential play area. But at the same time, if it's a team that was contesting another, you just have to expect that another team would look to try and preoccupy that position instead. But right now, we, Sined, Battlewoods, they're not the only ones. Sexy and Faded, the newer duo for this competition, came together specifically for it, and now trying to make sure that it was for a good reason. Taking a chance on the other. Tricks and Snakes. Playing it slow. And the thing is, when you have these positions on the map, like Latte Landing, that are more towards the outskirts, it is a bit easier to kind of take a little bit more of a pause, but Faded now trying to up a notch. In a matter of time, before Snake and Chris use up every single one of their builds, this is quickly turning against them.
Yes. Team Faded off the back of a really good qualifier here, plays first place to actually get here today. They had one bad game out of all the games that they managed to play yesterday, so they'll be on top of the world right now. And winning this off-spawn battle here, this early game battle, will be absolutely vital in terms of keeping that momentum going. But Dexy's getting pressured on the wall right now, snaking inside the box, huge shot from Dexy, another one onto Tricks, and that's two. And Dexy rolling back the years here, finding yet another clutch, and showing that he's not just a coach, but a top-tier player as well.
This is a really big confidence builder too right now. Not that Dexy need any of that. He's certainly a player that understands his own potential, but just fully winning out despite being back into a little bit of a corner here. He just never really had concerns, because if anything, he knew he could trust Faded as well. Just be that supportive piece, but those are the kinds of shots that when you connect, it's always going to build such good momentum early on. Combeck and Seti, though, this is a team we've had our eye on.
It was a tough heat for them, really. I mean, the analysts broke it down at the beginning of the day, how Seti was a solo in a lot of those games, and there's only so much you can really do as a solo when you're left in those end games. We know Seti's so talented, of course, been at every level of the game, and hasn't quite had that same success when it comes to duos at the beginning of 2026, of course, not qualifying through to the summit, not qualifying to the Major 1 finals with Rax. So a lot of pressure, I suppose you have to say, on Seti, and I suppose you could say a lot of pressure on Combeck as well today, because it's no secret that he didn't have the greatest performance, of course, in those heats, so in the heat that they played, of course. So lots of pressure sort of on both of them to make this one work, because, of course, this is the last full major before the Global Championships. Of course, we do have the Global Championship last chance qualifier, but really, really big day for these guys today.
And we'll circle back to them in a moment to see whether or not things have managed to take a little bit better shape for them, but Tarps and Ghosty, the opportunity, they were trying to get a little bit of a sneak up with the Skos. Instead, Colt just feeling a little bit too injured. Whitey's piece steadily being ticked away at, rather fall back and then just reconvene, but this does not look like a surge building instance for the pair. Instead, they're forced to kind of just stay hovering along the outskirts of those buildings. Con and Reason, though, managed to get their revenge. moving right deck slowed them down initially, but here at Lifty Lodge, things have seemingly gone back to business as usual for Reason and Con. 3 eliminations now in tow, so whatever surge was, they might have been countered early on, surely bound to dissipate at this point, Mini. Now it's exclusively on how well they're able to convert this into their endgame performance.
Yeah, that's nice to see, of course. Early game wasn't too great for them, and sort of reminiscent of what we saw in their heat. I thought it was going to be all over again, where they just kept losing a lot of those early game fights, and they were down to a solo and just couldn't get their games going, couldn't get the engines going in the heat. So nice to actually see them there winning that fight, and that little bit of confidence for them. Plenty of teams fighting in the Storm right now. Of course, Storm Surge initial warning pops up, so some of the teams that are below, they're looking to get a lot of that damage, and we expect this, of course, earlier on in the competition. A lot more passive, a lot more Storm plays, or Surge popping a little bit maybe earlier than expected, but not much time to really settle down either in these lobbies, really. It's only a 5-game format, and every game could look different, Taco, so it's really game by game you have to take it.
Yeah, if there was some form of a consistency metric, I do think that we would maybe see things be a little bit more lulled in the action, but with so many teams' hopes just hinging upon whether or not they can transition some of these early fights into a solid position for winning that victory royale at the end of it all, that's where things just get a little bit more dicey and Surefour. But Lucy, another one of those duos where you wouldn't have originally expected it. It's been Surefour on repairs for quite some time, but now Belusi as the new duo and Surefour trying to gauge whether or not this is actually going to bode them the level of success that they need. A nice setup, but the patience is a little bit risky here, given that they are only sitting at 153 above. They're definitely going to need more surge as the game develops, but a refresh onto Sinet and Wheat could be everything for this duo as the game continues to go.
Important there for them. It's nice to see that duo develop, of course. Sure, for Search and Repairs, such a great duo, of course, qualifying to the Major 1 final.
Probably wishing that they could have avoided this last chance circumstance, but once you're in the thick of it, it would just set a nice message of confidence, I think, to not only themselves but everyone else, that they've still got what it takes and they're able to continue building that into something more. Savage and Truly, though, after their off-spawn success, now in a pretty well-placed position, 585 above, so definitely in full control of their surge metrics, and that is something that was 1000% proving to be a massive problem for this duo throughout the course of their heats. is going to be a bit of a difficult endeavor to get closer to it. Belusi might find themselves clashing here with Wheat and Dennis. They're not careful, but Belusi, first and foremost, he's just trying to take over the aggressive front. They need damage. Birdie might be able to provide it, but instead immediately collapsed on by another player in the same sort of dire consequence of events. And now everyone clearly feeling the pressure that the surge is starting to apply.
Yeah, it's the teams that have fought that are looking pretty strong right now in terms of the surge damage. The teams that have effectively and efficiently fought, like Reason and Khan. Although we did lose Khan a little bit earlier on, they moved their way back. They got their way back over and, of course, won that second fight. So 3 eliminations for them keeps them well above. But it's the teams that have been a little bit too passive at the beginning of the game that are just slowly toppling right now as they get involved in a lot of these fights and end up forcing themselves into fights. You see Reason and Khan making their way underneath the bills right here. And for Savage and Truly, there's a situation we have seen them in the heats as well. They're getting looked at by a lot of different players in the lobby. And for Truly, it's your time to shine, my friend. This is where you need to stay together as a duo. Ensure that we can see how well they can play these end games together, because that's been their problem. It's been Savage clutching. You normally do it with one player.
And in this type of lobby format, that's just not going to be an option as a solo. Your expectations of delivering on a Victor Royale just become ever so slim. It's now Cashby, potentially one of those players that's in a bit of desperate needs for some surge damage. Calling Reason, trying to see whether or not they can capitalize on the circumstance. But whenever you do have players that are just getting a bit over aggressive, trying to immediately crash into the box that you're in to find that additional bit of damage, you can play spoiler, because you don't even necessarily have to get an elimination. Sometimes it's just about avoiding taking damage, avoiding having to take that pause to heal. Because now Seti, Comeback, this is a little bit more playing towards their strengths. Comeback has that mythic pistol in hand, so one thing that they are fully aware of needing to have control over is height, but maintaining height in this type of lobby, especially when we're pulling over towards Battlewoods, the trees, can be difficult. And Reason, Khan, that little spoiler circumstance seems to have actually taken place here. If Reason's able to get the revive off yet again, these two are going to have to really hit the ground running here. Zone has caught up. Playing from backside just means that they are going to have to break through so many pre-existing builds. Not only that, but players just waiting to ambush.
It's a team on high, Seti and Comeback that had that really nice zone call, took advantage of it as well, and now they can rain down fire from up above. They're connecting to these trees here as well, which can keep them afloat. Chicho now down to a solo as well, using that overdrive effect to gain a little bit of extra movement speed, but for now it's going to be nice and chill, popping the Chug Jug inside of the box, playing a little bit of that storm to try and stay back as much as possible. It's not over till it's over here for Chicho, but it's just been made much more difficult now the fact that he's a solo. Seti goes towards the front side of zone, as well as Comeback playing the backside, looking to try and cover as he does. Vanya on low ground as well, trying to find a couple of frags in this position next to the Frizzy, who's looking on the walls and making sure that this team next to them are going to go for a free fire. But look at this, Reason from a revive up to height, all the way up, takes down Seti. Reason now able to try and find that body if he can, needs those materials to maintain it, but Comeback now back inside of the storm. Their game has quite literally crumbled.
It is an absolutely devastating blow right now for Comeback and Seti, but it's part of the risk involved in Comeback. Way after the fact, going to make sure to get that little taste of revenge there. Reason being taken out now means that height has just become a mess of itself, and other teams are immediately looking to capitalize. Gordete, Clays, Durden, Scoves, all of them immediately looking to try and challenge for the high ground, but half of them barely even had the material count to stay up top. Scoves going to be the first to drop. Durden and Gordete are finally in some semblance of control here, but Truly Savage, take a look at what they've been getting up to from that secondary height position, fully aware of some of the chaos that just ensued up above, and now they want to see whether or not they can clear out enough space to really try and have a proper challenge for it. But Comeback finally going to be shut down here. So tries to make his way towards frontside. Faded still as a solo, no Dexy, just means that he could potentially end another team's hopes, bringing home that Victor Royale. But for Truly and Savage, they need a refresh, and they need it now. They might not have the luxury to pick and choose, but Vanya and the Fizzy going to pose too much of a threat here. Really trying to see if they can tap these walls now. As I peek on their favor. Savage actually choosing to elevate despite the HP disadvantage. He knows their best odds at finding a refresh or finding an elimination is going to come from that overhead.
That's one extreme.
Yeah, looking to try and jump down forward right here as Savage knows the experience that he has. Of course, this is the best opportunity inside of the box for Tree now dropping down all the layers. It's Frizzy, it's Vanya. There's not a box you want to get into unless your name's Mr. Savage. Huge shot, but gets shot from behind. There's another team in this low ground section as well. The issue for all of these teams down below is there's now a hill to contend with as well, but Truly takes down to Frizzy. Vanya now down to a solo. Truly finally comes into his own, but unfortunately gets sent back to the lobby as Vanya now needs a solo clutch like he's done so many times before. Good day, and Z's no way. They have gone down to full damage as well, and now it's all up to Vanya on low ground to try and make something of this game.
It's one thing to have height, it's another thing to make sure that you're not getting chopped in the process, and Vanya just barely managing to get over that initial starting point of the cliff face, but Carmi and Toos from way up above, they're going to be the ultimate benefactors. Great blockage of that overdrive attempt from Vanya to try and disorient them, but Vanya is sliding all the way down the hill, straight to the clutches of players that are just left over at the bottom of this mountain face. We will have no other choice except to continue trying to elevate. Toos, Carmi a little bit preoccupied now with this attempt, and it's a shutdown, and that is going to leave us in a sea of solo showdowns, as now we trying to see if he can clutch this one out. Toos looking to take it over, but at the same time, it's going to be Wheat and Sinead who are so the first to claim that spot in the Major 2 Grand Finals. A great effort at the end there. It just became so haphazard, many, but ultimately, Wheat and Sinead, they hold strong.
Yeah, they did. That was unbelievable. I thought it was Tusukami. I thought it was theirs for the taking right there. That first game was electric. Let's see what the devs make of it.
I mean, it is a harsh format for all of our jurors, but it is so... Right?
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of Synod and Wheat. I think when you look at Synod, obviously in the past, we've seen him in these types of formats, back in the day playing with, whoever it was, he would be playing with one of the Russian guys usually. Wheat as well as a player who, back in Chapter 5 when he really started to, perform at a higher level, I always thought he had so much potential. We didn't really see much from there, after Chapter 5. And good to see him here now, making his way into Grands with a nice little win as well.
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit bad for Toos and Carmi. I thought they had it in the bag. I mean, a good zone for them as well, pulling up the hill. All the other players had a very difficult rotate, but we just made it happen. Him and Sinead now qualifying themselves through that match. And the worst part about this for Toos and Carmi is it doesn't matter how many points you got from second place in all those eliminations, because the only thing that matters is that win. And if you don't get it, you are not qualifying. 4 more opportunities are what's left.
And you said that for Toos and Carmi, the zone was pulling in their favor. If it doesn't go in their favor next time, they're going to have to work even harder, just like Wheat and Sinead needed to, Levin.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you get put in a situation where you have to clutch up and your teammate goes down, I mean, the composure from Wheat, right? Acknowledging the fact that you had the heals to play with. A lot of people are going to be scrambling in the storm to try and get up the hill. Let me just take the time, pick people off, and make my way back into the storm and just gets the job done. I mean, a very impressive win there.
Yeah, it's what you'd love to see. And thinking about the drops, so now that they're qualified, they were contested. It was right east of where Skyjump and Momsy kind of just got surprise con in those final moments. So maybe one of the big bubble of 10 different duos that are all contesting each other in that area might switch up a little bit, but either way, it's still going to be complicated.
We'll be interested to see if many of those jurors have the same idea and try to find a space for themselves and find themselves yet again contested. But we'll have to wait a few minutes to find out.
something like this. Toxic build, no. Wait, get your mid, wait. 100? 100? Oh my god!
Milk can help you grow. Milk can't prevent your ride from blasting into space.
What's good, bro? Hello. Sorry, dude, for that sweet comment. Sorry, bro. Hello, bro. What's good, bro? Sorry for not sweet comment, dude.
There are 4 games left in tonight's last chance qualifier, which means there's only 4 spots in the grand finals. And it's going to be so exciting to see who is going to fight the hardest to get them. So let's talk about who showed promise in game number 1, because it was so great to see Savage and Truly taking down Tayson and Mustache, not because they're Tayson and Mustache, more because these guys are 2 players we really want to see in the lobby this weekend, Jakarta.
Yeah, I mean, this was an exciting way to kick things off, but I'm more excited to see how that kind of early game trend continues, right? We're still 4 more matches to play out, but let's focus on the end game here. Savage Truly, we're looking incredibly good. If this was a normal format where consistency mattered, this would have been an incredible game. But that's the issue. Doesn't matter how many seconds, thirds, fourths you get, you have to get that win, and it kind of changes the decision that a lot of these players make, Levin, going into these final moments. You're kind of forced to take those risks to set you up for the win.
Yeah, I think the big thing there was just they couldn't find the refresh they needed in the 11th zone, and the zone wasn't very forgiving either as it started to pull up the hill, so it was like you just had to make a play, and they couldn't find it quick enough. But promising signs, ultimately, both of them being in a position to try and find that refresh in the same place. I think you give them a couple more opportunities, they probably find it.
And Teti and Combat already look miles better than when we saw them playing Heat 3 on Sunday 11. They were very daring to go for that high ground when their surge was only just above the margins, but unfortunately they couldn't go the distance.
Yeah, I mean, well, the problem wasn't Surge, right? The problem was Big Boy Reason who decided to get involved. I mean, yeah, it was unfortunate there, but again, it's one of those things where it does tell us a lot to care about their intentions, right? You saw they wanted to play high. They wanted to just try and hold it out. They're clearly thinking, what can we do differently to try and win these games?
It didn't matter for Reason and Colin that they were low on mats, low on health. They went for that high ground. And what was interesting to me is after they went for that high ground, like 3 different duos decided it was time to go for height. So you can see Reason Con here made an incredible quick elim onto Seti, but once you see the high ground being fought, you have all these other lurkers down below kind of peeping up at the sky and realizing, okay, now's a good time to take it. We need to get the win. High ground is going to help us get that. And then everybody just started going for it. It was absolute chaos, I believe, in the 10th zone. So I don't think that trend's going to change much continuing in these next matches.
Selfishly, I have to say that Reason and Khan's loss is our gain on the broadcast because watching their early game, Reason taking on that 2v1, showing off that he's been practicing his own map, then having to get the reboot, finding some action in the mid game, and just getting through every disadvantage and turning it on its head, Levin. We want to see more of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Reason and Con are going to be a fun team to watch in these games, especially if they're going to keep making those types of plays. But that's what I said. I said, look, they're going to be a team that cycles like in most of these games. And game one, they already showed it, so I'm sure there'll be a bit more of that.
Yeah, I'm wondering then, are there any other duos do you think that can maintain the consistency tonight, Takata? Oh, and Levin, I know you're key. No, you're key. You're key. I mean,
let's hear it, Levin, because you had the good, predictions.
Kami and
the
Tooth,
caster,
I know, for
you were
example.
playing our predictions throughout all the heats on the desk. We brought you here, so let's bring up the desk predictions.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Vanya, right? Because Vanya had a great solo clutch. But unfortunately, it doesn't really mean much to have a great solo clutch if you ain't winning in this lobby, ultimately, right? For a second, I thought we were going to be throwing it back to the good old Chapter 3, Chapter 4 days when me and Shia Wager used to cast over Vanya's solo clutching games all over the shop, right? Of course, again, for people who've been in the Fortnite comp scene for a while, you remember he had one of the best sort of reboot round solo clutches we've ever seen in this type of format. Unfortunately, couldn't replicate that success here in this game. But again, if Vanya is here to play, that's going to be a big factor. And playing with Nefrizzi, I'd actually expect to see them up on height a lot more, because that's what both of those players have been known for historically.
Yeah, and another duo that we saw kind of have a detrimental end was Toos and Carby. I mean, they were looking primed up even until those final moments. Issue, as you can see, they ran out of materials, nothing to work with, and one player after another. Wheat was just more setup, more heals, more loot, better position, and ultimately closed it out. But hey, for Toos and Carmi, hopefully that's going to fuel the fire a little bit for these next matches.
Unfortunately, I think we've seen a lot of teams in that type of scenario. You can actually visibly just see the almost like the panic and the chaos in that moment where it's like, no, this game is actually slipping out of our fingers. Like, what can we do? Like, they're just looking all over the place, not on the same page. It's tough, but it happens. Hopefully they can bounce back from it.
Well, all of the duos that we've discussed so far have bounced back from terrible performances, or at least under par performances in the heats, that see them make it to the last chance qualifying. They've all shown signs of improvement in game one, but will it be enough to get them a victory royale? We'll find out who'll be taking our next one, well, now, because we're ready to head to game 2 with Miniminer and Tego.
Let's get it, chat.
With the winner still yet to be determined, Minnie, we'll get another chance to see who actually comes out on top from these off spawns. And if there's one thing that's definitely been certain, it's that things are going to continue to stay spicing up even after the initial off spawns. We saw so many duos just getting so regularly into other mini box fight battles that it did make it rather difficult for teams to really establish themselves heading into that chaotic endgame.
I mean, I fully thought Toos and Kami had it. You know, they were up on high, everything was looking okay. It was just that one individual player that decided to take it off of them, and then they, of course, got second. So those split-second decisions, not even that you make, even that other individual players can make all of the difference. So let's see if we get any more in game number 2.
Where va pick up my judgment?
that came out on top, looking to replicate that same level of success, getting some of that double cone piece control. Good shot return though, but it's not going to be quite enough for New Plays to take down. Reason can quickly heal and get back inside of the action as well. Khan tries to go on the wall, but can't quite find the angle either. Ritex doesn't look like he has actually the shield to heal up right here, and that's going to allow Khan just to close on through. New Plays is on another angle as well, but can't quite escape because Reason's looking for him. And it's all a decision now for Reason and Khan. Are they going to stay satisfied with this initial elimination? Are they going to try and close down New Plays? Again, though, it's those two teams clashing and going the way of Reason and Khan.
Just a great way to kind of send a bit of a message there from Reason and Khan. They don't want Noob or Ritex anywhere near their turf. They want to have full control. But obviously, other teams in a bit of a less uncontested predicament. Hugo trapped though, just waiting behind the bar. DZ and Izzy have absolutely no idea until the scanner goes off. Pulsar scanner has completely revealed smart heads-up play. But that's also going to draw a little bit of disruptions there for Izzy, who's just been on the escape, trying to wait for an opportunity to make a move for a reboot. When you're hovering the outskirts of the map like that, teams that haven't necessarily come to a conclusion with some of these early sneak play opportunities, well, they'll just be lurking about. Fortunate there, as he might be able to get away, but Speed and Chicho, they're just trying to get their surge built up in the first place.
These guys there, just separate bases, looking for some shots on Alvahalo and Zedit in that area. And some of the other teams around the map. A lot of these early fights can end in disaster, or they can end in... that wasn't what was supposed that wasn't meant to happen. They're supposed to get the effect and then do that instead of shotgunning each other, or overdriving each other away. As Kiri and Yaxi make their way in towards the zone. Lixie and Hedra, of course, just next door. This is a big moment here for Kiri. I feel like we haven't seen the best of Kiri in the last couple of years. I remember he was sort of qualifying for grand finals in 2023, 2024, was sort of starting to cement himself as a top tier player in the region, but we just haven't seen that level of gameplay from him. Now duoed up with Yaxi, but more of an upcoming player, of course, the Italian duo themselves. So excited to see what that duo can actually bring, whether we can sort of rekindle some of that previous Kiri magic that we were able to see previously. Never quite got to the very top, but maybe this is the catalyst for that resurgence here.
And it's tough too, because when you have those
I watched this guys on YouTube.
moments under the spotlight, even
Yeah, I
as
noticed that.
short-lived as they might be,
I
it's
really
still
watch him on
just,
YouTube.
you don't really forget about those instances in your career, especially when you're with new teammate. And not only that, but you're looking at the current day success of where some of your teammates might have ended up, right?
Yeah.
And for Gary, seeing King and Ghost and how well things have actually played out for them, and they're given heats that they were able to avoid this whole prospect of the last chance lobby. But Radon and Bimbo, definitely a heat to remember for these two. They were just caught in so much action throughout the whole course of it. And they'll have to bring some of that fighting caliber here today. You can already see that they got off to a pretty quick start. 2 eliminations. Looking back in, very quick collapse of the Roban that probably wishes he wasn't on the receiving end of, but sometimes it's just how the cookie crumbles, and still other teams just continuing to kind of cool over. Very high surge bases, but Tayson and Mustache sort of lingering towards the outskirts of Sinister.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see them obviously went off spawn there in the second game. I might have offended a lot of Savage fans with that, but it's good to see what they can now bring in these end games. Of course, they went down very early, of course, in that very last game, and managed to actually switch things up in the off-spawn battle here. So actually finally able to see what they can do, and of course that just amplifies the importance of this end game, because of course you never know what's going to happen off-spawn. But for Wi-Fi and Boris, this was a team that absolutely broke my heart when it came to, I think it was Heat 1, because they placed second place in their final game. It was game number 5, only to, of course, Shark and Teeny. So you think maybe they just about did enough. No, they were 1 place off of qualification in their heat. And if they won that game, of course, they would have done it. But against Shark and Teeny, it's very, very difficult to come out on top. So I'm almost sort of rooting for these guys just to just to qualify through today. Because it just had so much unlucky moments. There were so many unlucky moments. But I suppose if you don't get enough points, you're not worthy of qualifying. So you need to reset from that and hopefully find some success in this lobby and, of course, in this fight right now.
We'll have to cheer on our separate favors, I guess, in this type of instance, Minnie, because Quicks and Zuki look like they've got Wi-Fi and Boris a bit on the run here. But Boris now trying to see whether or not he can switch up positional advantages, just lurking underneath the floors there. Quicks and Zuki, but Boris doesn't get the opening shot he was hoping for. It was a great lurk wraparound, but you're not able to net the damage after the fact. It's now put them back into a retreating circumstance, and Wi-Fi will be punished for it immediately. Double team there by Zuki and Quicks. So the first elimination has been claimed, but Quicks is relatively low, a bit injured. Pause for a moment, but when you're playing hip to hip next to your duo, it's just going to make it all the more complicated for Boris to actually intervene.
Oh, that sucks. I mean, yeah, Boris, it's unfortunate to say, but he has to do better there. You've got an edit on a wall. It's a free shot. The player's inside of the box, and he whiffs. And that fight could have gone so differently if he'd have connected with that shot. Now, though, all down to a solo, of course, lost a lot of surge damage in the process as well. You saw only 11 above there on Boris, and it's going to be interesting to see how he actually approaches this. Of course, you can buy the reboot cards back, but I think in the sense that he needs to try and get some damage back now, he's going to try and stick around and get the little bit of damage return, almost a little bit of a refund on the damage that he just lost from Quicks and Zuki. And excited to see this duo, though. I know they're you're sort of seeing the attacker with Quicks as a player that I've sort of had my eye on for a little while. Sort of casted a couple like solo events, and he was just popping off in those. I think it was the sort of TCL solo events that they have for sort of the German and Swiss region, and he's a player that's really been popping off in those sort of solo competitions. So clearly has the ability. And let's take a look at the replay here from Strafito. Find a nice knock, and that's what you need to do when you have an edit on someone. Hit the shot. Easy.
Tough break there, though, for Elixium on the big screen. Unfortunately, not the type of outcome that you want to be caught in the middle of, but Tortail to Ghosty still contending against each other. Both these teams, though, relatively low on HP, but for Torch and Ghosty, they definitely got the whites to heal through it. So, just a little bit of a delay of the inevitable here. They'll be able to pick up pieces after the fact. Vanya and Nefizzi, though, they've also clearly hit a spot of trouble here. An even exchange between themselves and Surefour. And when both players are just left in these isolated scenarios, it's just Vanya trying to play for the advantages of getting off the immediate reboot, but Surefour knows that this is also his best bet for getting back up in the running for a Victory Royale outcome. Trying to play, see whether or not they can close out. Great job to protect the make-it loot there, and yeah, Vanya just does not get the chance. Immediately turned on, falling back to those pre-existing builds, and sadly Surefour just had the control.
Well, again, I mean, for the player of Vanya's experience, you'd expect him to be sort of in his own box. You'd expect him to understand this is not my piece control. This is not something that I can edit before popping that chug, but it's a lapse in concentration there maybe from the man himself. Got plenty more games to go, though, 3 more, which I suppose sounds like a lot, but when it comes down to it, they're in a bit of a difficult situation off spawn, so there's no guarantees they'll be making the stage of the lobby throughout the day. Nice little flyby elimination there, or knock, I should say, from Comeback onto Izzy. I think he was actually credited with it in the end, but nicely done from Seti as well. Just buys him a little bit of that time, ability to actually get towards the zone, but not without getting looked at by a bunch of other players inside of this zone. See Nosif there as well, unfortunately now down to a solo, having to heal off inside of the storm, and this just makes things so difficult. This is not when you want to go down here, Taco, because winning it from this position as a solo, even if your name is Vanya or someone along those lines, it is incredibly difficult.
This is only going to continue to get worse for some other players because Khan no longer next to reason, despite the fact that they've been getting ahead of the lobby at the opening points these past 2 games. It's that mid to end game conversion. Once we hit that first partial where players are really starting show those little glimpses of struggle or success. And for Colin as a solo here, there is a lot of lobby still left to be played out. Only 118 above. The whole focus is just set to where his current position is at, and that is going to be a dropout, not of his choice. Just too many eyes on. Fitzpatrick more than happy to pick over the body loot here. Gotta be wary though. They know other teams are gonna close in where they're at. A pretty big box fight also starting to build up directly next to them. On both ends of the spectrum, they've just got a lot to get through before they're out in the clear. So much congestion just really building up on this particular side of the zone. Is now Yapko Panzer. This is one of those teams where a lot of people on paper would not have expected them to be in this current position, but you always have to draw back to the fact that we almost didn't even see this duo in the first place. A big part of the reason why they even ended up reuniting was just due to the removal of the shock rocks. And they felt like they had a pretty good grasp of the competitive meta, decided, hey, let's just run it back since things have kind of shifted a little bit more in our favor, and yet still here today, struggling with some of the surge, hoping that they'll be able to find some form of refresh to kind of put them across that finish line.
I did say on socials beforehand of this competition, they'll be going high every game, so expect to see them up on top of the lobby. Didn't see it really in game one, but let's see if they are true to their statement as this game progresses into the end game right here. This is a team that I saw mentioned at the beginning of the day. Akira Karama could double mythic on Akira right now as well. Does seem like they are continuing that ability that they have. Of course, we know this is a team that can turn things around so efficiently. Last major, remember, they qualified through to the major finals through a victory royale in their heat. So although they didn't go all the way to the last chance lobby last season, it was a victory royale that did it for the last grand finals. So maybe this is their sort of format here, but for Taste and Moustache, big end game for them, big moments, maybe a chance to roll back the years for, I suppose, both of them, who haven't really had the greatest start of 2026, it must be said.
And to be completely fair to the two of them, compared to all of the other competitors in this lobby, they did only have 4 of those matches to work with in their Heats group. Just an unfortunate outcome for Moustache, having a circumstance where I believe his PC had blue screen prior to on the lobby starting, so didn't actually get a chance to make it into every single one of those lobbies. Sometimes it's just how things go, but drawing back towards where Comic and Seti are at, not on high ground, not really working with any HP either, just forced into a very grim situation here, and now Seti still trying to see whether or not he can play right decks along the way. Does get the finishing touches here, but even still, Mini left as a solo, that is just the worst type of outcome, because you don't really even get to, enjoy that moment of winning the fight initially. It's just the spoiler has already been done, and Seti as a solo, contending with this sea of duos, trying to make his way even towards that front side of zone, but only has 2 overdrive grenades left to his name. Will at least be able to elevate just a bit here, get 1 or 2 powers above ultimate low. Should keep from getting taken down by a team that's looking back a little bit more central, but Kira and Karama, disaster striking at the worst possible moment. Now forced to sit and try and play for the revive here, and even if Karama gets back up in the running, they're going to have to take a moment to pause. That's going to lead them trying to duke their way through from the backside of zone.
Yeah, big moment there for Akira Karama. They're looking so strong before those pre-edits started coming through, but look who is looking strong. It's Tilio and his duo. Kovacs up on high as Seti falls down at the bottom of the lobby. There's only so far realistically he can go. Is that Akira and Karama looking to go for height? No, they decide to go for front side of zone. Ace and Moustache still playing on those low ground layers as well, trying to ride out all the builds that they have inside of this lobby. As Taysom tries to lead the way going front side of zone. Plenty of contestation on that layer as Moustache needs to try and get back to his wounded teammate in Taysom. Takes over control a little bit for himself as well. Tries to block off a couple of those angles from above. And just finally a moment to breathe here for the experienced duo. Kovacs and Tilio still remain up on high. But if game number 1 is anything to go by, things can definitely topple down very, very quickly.
But one of the advantages Team on High has right now is that the zone is just max pooling over so much water. It is so complicated for these teams in these lower layers to really get their footing, to really build up any sort of rhythm. Kurama and Akira, they just have not had the chance to heal. Even with the double chug jug in his inventory, Kurama just has not had a moment to really pause and breathe. Finally, will squeeze himself just into enough of a crevice to start utilizing some of this healing opportunity, but left as a solo Akira paying the ultimate price here as Kovacs Tulio starting to run out of material. They're dropping down, get a little bit more up close and personal with the rest of this lobby, and Mustache Tayson still leading the charge back to the low ground, back and healthy, seeing whether they can back each other up because they're looking every which way to try and capitalize on another elimination. They know everything comes down to just clearing out this lobby, putting themselves in the best possible position to come out with the win.
Look at this, though. Gordete and Zays looking for a sneak play up on height. Tilio and Kovacs caught lacking. Look at that, misses the shot as well. Tilio inside the box. Ghosty is able to take him out in the end, but with losing his teammate Tops, that's going to be a difficult end for them. And there's another team up on height now. They're taking advantage of all of that chaos. It's Rinzi, it is Cactus, and now they've been tumbled. This is all just mayhem up on height as Tayson continues to find eliminations. He's the fragger of this duo right now. Radiant looking to try and find some down below as well. Still, Tayson continues to roll back the years, finding elimination after elimination.
Tayson might have had the perfect read on the lobby with high ground just being so regularly contested. He realized, let's just clear out what's taking place underneath. But Tayson, he'll still have to get one more elimination to try and clear forward. Mustache finding one up top, but Tayson has been taken out. Gordete has done enough damage here, but he's still so low, forced to drop. Mustache down to his final two builds, trying to see whether or not he can find a little bit more siphon material. Has to close out on this elimination. Manages to get it just in the nick of time here, but for Clays, they'll have to wait and see whether or not Lobby 3 bodes a bit better here. But Vete, though, now looking to re-challenge Mustache up on the high ground, and this time around, though, Mustache going to get the better end of things with Bimbo and Radion, one of the only healthy duos in this lobby. They don't have much material to work with. They're going to have to contend with a player just one tier above them, and they're hoping that Rios and Mustache do enough damage to each other to make this a clean and easy refresh circumstance for the Victor Royale.
Mustache has the bills, though. Crix is going to have to drop on down at some point. You have to imagine Mustache is trying to force that, as he has plenty of materials to keep himself afloat. What he doesn't have right now, of course, is those heals. Can Mustache do what Mustache does best in solo clutch as Bimbo and Radiant take out the final player in the middle? It's now all up to Mustache to try and solo clutch against Radion and Bimbo. The overdrive grenades come through. Mustache can't do too much about that. He will fall, and Radiant and Bimbo make their way into the Major 2 finals.
It's a tough break there for Mustache at the end. I think the Bimbo and Radion, whether they intended to or not, that split focus, Mustache can only look one way at a time. And unfortunately, it's going to be all success here for Bimbo and Radion. So, Des, let's hear what you guys got to say.
I was so entertained by that Mustache show, but congratulations to Vadian and Bimbo. They managed to survive the chaos that was happening on all layers of this lobby, Takata, and they got themselves out of Dodge and into the finals.
Yeah, this is big news for them. They were contested at Sinister Strip, so it was a bit tough in the early game, but ultimately now, all they needed was that win, and they got it. I was a little scared for a moment, I'm not going to lie. I saw Mustache kind of primed up there on height, getting Elim after Elim, and I was like, okay, wait. This isn't no regular 2v1, but it was a quick cleanup for Bimbo and Radion, so it's what you love to see, Lev.
Yeah, no, big congrats to Radion and Bimbo. I sort of grimaced there at the end with Mustache coming second. It was always going to be a tough one, but they didn't give him the 1v1, right? Like, he could have actually, like, because of the way they played, they made the sort of like shock because they didn't have the match, right? Like, they were just like, we need to force the issue. We don't have the match. We just need to make the play. And for a second, like, you know, there was a possibility for him there, right? Where you can just isolate it with Radion. Doesn't quite hit the right shots, unfortunately for them. But they will not care about how clean that was. They got the win that they wanted and needed. Unfortunately, another second place for Tayson and Mustache, obviously first one today, but they had one in the heats, right? And again, that's 2 opportunities now to win a game and just get into grands. They barely miss out.
I will say that also in the heats, we saw Mustache having to do a lot of that work on his own, but going into this end game to Carter, it felt like it was much more of a team effort.
It really did. So hopefully they can pick things up in these next matches.
Well, we are going to have a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about more of the duos that we feel are in contention.
Milk can help you grow. Milk can't prevent your ride from blasting into space.
RJ.
Radiant and Bimbo took our second victory royale of the night, so they are out of the lobby and they're already in the grand finals. But we've got 3 more games to go tonight. So let's talk about who is looking sharp and with the potential to take the next win. So in terms of the lobby, it was exciting to see Murstache and Tayson actually taking off. They had a disastrous first game, losing in the Osborne to Savage and Truly, but this time they were able to take the W, and Murstache very nearly took the victory royale, Levin.
Hey, I mean, it was fun to watch. I could feel the excitement in Minnie's voice just seeing Tayson get these limbs. I mean, it did feel like we were rewinding back to the chapter 2 days where he was on top of the world, and unfortunately, when he goes up for height here, you start thinking, oh my god, he is just going to single-handedly just take over this game and just win it for them. Like, he's going to do everything needed. And it doesn't quite pan out. Moustache drops down, and the Moustache sort of gets into his element a bit to cut, and you're thinking, okay, hold on, like, Moustache might just do this. It's tough. Like I said before we went to break, again, a second place. The nature of the second place is obviously tough because it's a 1v2 for Moustache, so he's not expected to win there. To be that close and potentially miss out, it does hurt and it does stick.
Yeah, it might have been a different game if Tayson was able to shoot just a millisecond faster, but I mean, leading up to that, he already had 6 eliminations. They were looking lethal going into those final moments, and like you said, it's kind of unfortunate they had to do a 1v2 in the end, but hey, in terms of the off spawn, It's 1-1. Savage took it once. Now Taze and Mustache took it once. And both times, these players have made it to the end games and performed incredibly well. Savage got a top 8, I believe, with a decent amount of eliminations. And obviously, we just saw the second place from Tayson and Mustache. So very excited to kind of see how this continues.
I think the big problem though that you have is, like you just said, they didn't win the first one. There's no guarantee they win the next one or the others, right? So it's like it's tough. I think based on how that Oswald goes, we'll probably stay somewhat even as the games bounce back and forth. But yeah, you gotta make these count, man. It's not gonna be easy.
It speaks to the caliber of these players, though, the fact that they are making it to these end games when the terrain is so tough. I mean, that low ground was absolutely killer for the less experienced duos, having to contend with the water as well as the chaos all around them. But a duo that can contend with that and actually looking already more consistent than they did in their heat. It's Yapko and Panzer to Carter. I mean, this is a duo that's already showing signs of life.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about them earlier on, kind of alluding to they pop off when they get the opportunity to, but I mean, their placement so far, 40th in the first game, so it did not go their way, and now they finally made it to the end game, but it wasn't really that pop-off game we would have expected. The loot was looking so good, double chug jugs, mythic, I mean, they had everything they needed, but they went down in 15th, kind of dudding it, Levin.
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. I don't know if highlights is the right word for what we just saw from them there, right? They had the one and in 15th place. It's going to have to be much, much better than that, especially based off of what we're seeing from some of the other teams so far.
Yeah, well, let's see if they can continue moving up, because I do still think that the fact that they are at least making it that far is something that's maybe giving me false hope. Maybe I'm too much of a fangirl for these players and trying to manifest. So I'm just going to keep doing that for them as we go into our next game. Takata, I think you're probably manifesting good things for a Spanish duo. I mean, we saw a pretty showing from Durden and Gordate.
Yeah, I'd say they're the most consistent right now. I mean, they've got 6th place, they've got 4th place. In terms of consistency, they are number 1 right now in placements. They took out Tayson in that match. You can see how aggressively playing for the high ground now. Unfortunately, Gordete lost his teammate when he did retake high, and this, I'm just curious how, I was actually curious how Tayson ended up going down there. It was just a quick shot from Gordete. He was ready, but it kind of, I don't want to say ruined, but made it much more difficult for Mustache in those final moments. Now, hopefully, they don't have the difficulty off spawn like Tayson and Mustache do. They have 3 more chances of making this happen. So,
we got 200 points.
It's interesting to see. Oh, apologies. Jump in, Levin. Jump in.
I was just going to say, I wish you guys could see at home just how excited Takara gets whenever a Spanish team is just doing anything. I've known this guy for like 5 years, and I'm just like, there's no more peak excitement than when a Spanish team is doing anything good in the game. It's unreal.
You know what, production can see our cameras when we're watching the games. I feel like we need to get some replay highlights of Takata, especially if we see this duo succeed tonight. Just teasing for you there. Dirty on Big Detail, I'm manifesting for you too. We're ready to go into game number 3 though now, so let's head back to Taco and Mini Miner.
It's crazy to think that we are already approaching, technically speaking, the halfway mark of today, Mini, and with 2 teams having confirmed their spots for the major 2 grand finals, time is running out and the pressure is building up for everyone else in this lobby.
It really is. This has been so good so far. So many high takes, so much chaos in those endgame moments. Talk about Takata getting excited about the Spaniards. I know one guy that'll be excited about those Italians winning a game. Mike TV, wherever you are watching on, I'm sure doing a viewing party. I'm sure their chat's going absolutely crazy right now as well. But it's great to see so many of these teams that are having consistent games. But ultimately, all that matters is making sure you actually get that win. It doesn't matter about staying consistent. It doesn't matter about having good end games, solo clutching seconds. It ultimately doesn't matter apart from maybe mentality, Taco. So this is really where things start to get real for our teams, because of course we're running out of games as the day goes on.
I do think that there is a silver lining though for some teams where, you know, maybe your placements are increasing just one little bit after the next, but here in game 3, let's see who's going to bring it home.
Here it is, game number 3, and lots of questions still to be answered about this lobby. Who will rise and who will fall as we get towards the halfway point of the day? And speaking of rising and falling, we've seen both from both teams here over at the Frosted Flats area. It looks as though Savage is
Savage.
already getting off to a good start here. Looks as though these guys always go for this slurp track, getting them that upper hand earlier on, just to get all of that shield, which gives them that freedom, that flexibility to actually attack. And I think they've understood this, because Tayson and Moustache are very, very split at the beginning of this fight here, Taco. And I think because Truly and Savage were able to actually VOD review in between this game and the last, they actually were able to actually probably identify that, and maybe Tayson's seen that too. Moustache looking for some shots, not connecting from the other side as well. But this is a much quicker fight than what we saw in the previous 2 games.
It's so complicated right now for Moustache and Tayson, because Moustache, we saw what he was rocking with. He didn't have a shotgun actually available, so he can't really afford to get that close with Truly and Mr. Savage just yet. They're going to have to continue trying to see what sort of leftover loot they can come up with here, because eventually these two will be forced to clash. We've already seen back-to-back lobbies where they have to find an immediate answer to the other, and it is a bit more painful for Moustache and Tayson, I would wager, just given the fact that they had such a close finish in that last lobby. It's always going to be kind of eating away with you in the back of your mind, but you just have to brush it off. You have to say go next. And for Truly and Savage, they're trying not to be sent back into the next lobby, but Moustache and Tayson are really heating up here at Frosted Flats. Tayson fully healthy, but with no materials, he'll be forced to try and farm out whatever he can squeeze from the available area. Truly lurking overhead, though. Do they know that he's in the tree? That's the real question left to be answered here. But Tayson and Moustache still yet to go down just yet. But Tayson's on the end of his legs, and sure enough, Moustache chasing Savage now every which way. They're both just so wiggly, but it's going to be Truly who actually winds up taking out Moustache at the very end of it. Just lost track of what had actually gone down inside of the building. So a great bounce back here for Truly and Savage.
Yeah, Truly a cape. A lot of talk about what he was doing in the heats. Didn't really have a massive part to play, but what he's just done there is absolutely saved Mr. Savage's bacon, because he was down, he was out. Moustache may have just got that finish, but if it wasn't for Truly coming on through, absolutely vital little play there from Truly. Oh, here we go, look at that. Fiend from Rick Ball. And him and Spari now can actually continue on with their game. He said, no way, you're not running away from us. We will pick up that second one. Let's look at the first. Spari here, yeah, nice shots. Side of the box, of course, then his teammate tried to get away. We saw exactly what happened to him, so nice early fights here.
Rinzy and Cactus, one more time, trying to contend with the likes of Torquilda and Dusty. Rinzy trust Cactus to try and close things out. Does get an opportunity, though, take advantage of Dusty losing sight of where he was at for a moment. Torquilda now looking to build up just a little bit here, but still choosing to stick close to his duo. Best form of backup is making sure that you can immediately kind of take over cover fire for the other, and two will sort of recognize that this isn't really worth pursuing. They're going to opt to fall back.
Look at this though, yeah, good hands early on, broke it down. They haven't really got going today. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, nice. Lemon playing right there. That's super important for them just to get their games going. They just haven't been able to find a lot of those eliminations. We didn't get to see too much from them, especially for a duo of their quality. So they're a fantastic trio with Sassy, of course, as well. And as you mentioned, Taco, they split, got back together. I think it was Hamza that was more than happy to actually move over to NA if he, or Yasko, I think it was actually, that was more than happy to move over to NA. He was looking at all different options. So it really has to work for them. Or else he'll sort of live to maybe rue that decision to get back together. Now though, a lot of these early fights are a little bit more calm, I suppose you could say. A lot of the players are just looking for a few different angles. We can see that right here. Carlson, no. 37, or 37 himself. Looking to see what they can do here. I know Nog actually claims this area is just sort of his duck. He likes to, I think it's just to the south. There's one particular duck on the map that he likes to claim. Maybe they broke it. Oh no, maybe it's in the distance here. You can see it on the right. That duck is his, alright? Nobody take that old duck, alright? It's his.
He hopes so, at least, but Doesn't look like that other duo is willing to budge anytime soon. Comeback and SETI looking in what they've been getting up to start of this lobby. Vinny and game one, obviously, trying to overtake the high ground, but saw just how readily, the rug was kind of snatched from underneath their feet. And game two, never really even had the chance, so back-to-back lobbies just sort of slipping out of your control. Does start to weigh on you a bit here, given that both had a relatively rough chapter in general. It would feel weird to have another finals where you're just not getting to witness SETI and all of his stature. Same case scenario too for Comeback, another really veteran player of the E competitive scene. But still a lot of road ahead of them before we figure out where exactly they decided to park it at the end of this game. Yapko Panzer hovering sunken shores. They know there's likely another team and they're working on this area, but
I have it done.
Mumsy and Skyjump. Of course, a team that switched over their drop spot in that last game. It didn't really work out for them. We saw Skyjump having to get the reboot through, and then, of course, didn't quite actually make it happen. Had to swim all the way around the map, so it doesn't seem like they're having as many troubles here, although they are in a similar sort of area of the map, as is Vanya and Nefrizzi up towards the Wonky Land area. As Domler and Strapito looking to find some angles. I suppose this is the good thing about Wonky Land. You can, of course, rotate in a little bit later with the wheel, but can mean these fights just drag out that little bit longer because both teams know that, and you're just looking for an angle. And we haven't seen the best of Vanya for so long, really. It feels like throughout this entire year we just haven't been able to see the heights that Vanya can achieve. So I feel like he's the sort of player that all he needs is one big event, one solo clutch in a lobby like this, just to reignite that fire in his belly, because of course it was a second place at the Global Championships with his trio at the end of last year, and that really is tough to swallow, I'm sure, for someone like Vanya, who's just had some success last year as well. It's going to be interesting to see if they can, of course, qualify themselves through to the Global Championships this year as well, because he's the sort of player, really, Taka, that you just want to see on that level, on that stage. He was interacting with the crowd so well in Lyon. He was really just a really great player to watch, not just for his gameplay, which is always nice to see on that.
Well, it's also just tough because you already touched on it, but second place at the last Global Championship and then potentially having to work with just the last chance qualifier as your hopes of cementing your position at this upcoming one. That's a really tough spot to be in. It's just not the type of competitive year that anyone could have expected for how much success Vanya actually attained throughout the course of Chapter 6.
Savage and Truly here as well, and the way they're playing this is very, very similar to what we saw from Sky and Scroll playing this drop. I have no doubt they would have actually VOD reviewed that, building up inside of the POI, getting all the heals up there, of course, as well. So usually that would be a good thing. It's like, let's VOD review Sky and Scroll, because of course they're one of the best teams in the region, but they didn't have a great heat, so it's going to be interesting to see how they sort of develop on that strategy that Sky and Scroll have coined here, as Tarps and Ghosty are getting into a bit of a fight. I say really that Ghosty's the one getting into the fight, unfortunately, getting pretty much shut down immediately here, Taco. It was Tarps having to heal up all the way back there. Chicho Skavia just can't believe what they found, because, hang on a sec, there's a solo on our wall, we're taking him out, and there's no sign of his duo, so a little bit of a llama for them here in the Storm. And again, this is a team that you'd expect a lot from as well, just the ability of both players, the experience of both players, just haven't seen it yet, especially in their heat as well. They, of course, didn't contest SETI at their Cami split drop spot. Just, I don't know if it's a lack of confidence at the moment, but interesting to see what they actually end up doing.
I have a feeling it may have been an involvement of these vendings, and it was Ghosty who just really did not get to fully capitalize on that opening shot. But heads up play there from Chicho's B. They're just kind of hanging about the vending machine in the first place, and it's not uncommon to see players staying inside of the Storm, especially during these early phases where the tick damage just, it's not really much to be too pressed over. But now Kurama and Akira find themselves trying to work their way in. A little bit of contention from some other teams that are already pre-established. Still, once you make it into that edge of zone, you'll be able to look back, gauge whether or not there's going to be other late party arrivals that
Yo,
can
do you
actually
have?
take advantage
Do you
of,
have
get some
Sprite?
additional surge damage on.
I have the Polo Sprite.
The big standout factor, though, for so many of these teams today, Mini,
I
has
have
just
the
been
Polo Sprite.
actually staying with your duo into that final zone. If you can make it into the last 1 or 2 moving
I have the
zones
Polo
and
Sprite,
still have your duo
the
with
Battle
you,
Sprite,
the odds of
the
winning
Galaxy
just
Sprite, the
skyrocket.
gummy Sprite. I
Yeah,
think.
it does, and
I have the gummy
it's
Sprite.
tough because you can
I have
such
Word
a
Sprite.
good
I have
run of
every
games,
Sprite.
and you can
Every
feel like
Word
you're on top
Sprite.
of the world, and then towards the end of the day, if you don't
So,
win,
yeah,
it just means
I have, like,
the
a lot
same
of
as the
Sprite.
team that went down or spawn every single game. So it is a really tough. I think it's one of those sort of lobbies, and of course I never played at this level, but I feel like it's a sort of lobby where it really tests you mentally because you have to pick yourself up after each and every game, whether you had a good one or a bad one, because a bad one means anything that isn't a win. So it's really, really tough on these guys, and particularly for some of our newer players to this sort of lobby that maybe aren't as experienced, that aren't sort of veterans of the lobby. You would expect those sort of players maybe to crumble under the pressure, but some of them, they just turn up when the pressure is on and the lights are brightest. And that's really what can really kickstart a lot of these players' careers. The likes of Robban, for a long time, sort of a player that a lot of people would have sort of considered one of the better teams in Europe. When he was playing with X-Force back in the day, I think it was sort of chapter 4 when they were really popping off. I think they got like a top 5, top 6 in the major finals then. And they were just looking really good. They were a scary team up on height. They were always in those sort of lobbies and dominating, finding eliminations, jumping in, and sort of, in his case, it's sort of gone the other way. It just hasn't been the greatest return to duos for him and his career lately. So hoping that Shadox can be that player to sort of reignite his positioning as one of the better players in Europe.
It's also a bit of a testament to just what kind of new talents are really starting to surface and emerge from the EU region, and that's definitely only adding to the problems for some of our more veteran and experienced players, is that you are just having to contend with so many fresh faces that can always complicate things quite a bit. But Dexy and Faded caught against Mumsy and Skyjump, and Mumsy, Skyjump at least will have the opening celebrations. Skyjump making sure that they can continue marching forward here, though. Things did get a little bit dicey there for a moment, but definitely tough experience there for Dexy and Faded. That could have been a real opportunity to try and build some rhythm here in this third match. So instead, we'll have to see just how far Mumsy and Skyjump can actually take it. They are a team that is more than capable of pulling out a victory royale in the final moments. So this is definitely their type of playground. But when everyone else is also hunting for that same winning circumstance, you've got to keep it's about you. Reason, Khan, applying a little bit of lobby pressure here for good reason. Just barely above that surge threshold. They can tell they're going to need to do a lot more damage if they intend on trying to have some smoother rotates later on.
It's weird with Reason and Calm, because I feel like in these open formats where they're sort of able to get a lot of eliminations, they're just popping off every single aspect. All their fights just seem to be going their way when it comes to those sort of formats. Then they get into these set lobby events, like the Heats, like this event. It just hasn't quite been the same explosiveness that we saw from them, of course, in those open formats. Again, it's of course a different format, but you would expect them to carry a lot of that fighting ability through. So quite surprising, also, to not see them perform as well as we expected in the Heat, and even here today, not quite been at the races. But of course, this is a good opportunity for them to find that form. Couldn't quite find the actual elimination onto that, but were able to get a little bit of the loot and can make their way inside of the zone. And it's going to be interesting to see how they sort of bounce back from that. I saw on socials, Reason's reaction to not qualifying through in the Heats was just Jeej. So, you know, I guess he's taking it in his stride a little bit. A lot of people in the replies sort of saying the football's left him type comments, so maybe he has a bit of a point to prove in that regard. I don't think so. I think Reason's still a very top player. But it's just hasn't quite been able to work for them in the sort of set lobby formats. I don't know what it is exactly, but hopefully they can make it all happen now.
he's could just be a little bit more forgiving too on the mental in comparison to this style of format in the last chance, where you know the winning factor is all that really matters. So some of those risks that you might have been able to sort of justify opting for earlier on, you know, you might find yourself second guessing in the moment here in today's competition. Not saying that that's going to be the case necessarily for a player like Reason, but it's just those little thoughts that, you know, they can sometimes flare up at the wrong instance.
Like it's up, Jen. Like it's
very
up.
big distraction right now for Panzer,
Like
though. He's
it's up,
hoping
like
that the
it's
rest
up.
of this lobby is a little bit more preoccupied with itself than where he's at, but he has got quite a ways to go. He'll be forced to continue trying to wrap around a bit here, but you are just so far where you need to be. Still has so much ground to cover. Only 3 overdrive grenades left to do it, and the Chug Jug just barely going to manage to take him over to a healthy position, but one well-placed bump shot, and that's going to be the end of the line here for Panzer. Just kind of hoping that nobody else sees him. He wants to get that surprise shot off onto either Clays or Skos.
No.
See, he's just running out of everything.
Max Pole there as well. That's so
Where's Savage?
unfortunate for him. Just everything going the wrong way for him. Quite literally in terms of the zones, as Reason and Khan
Did that?
a little bit more of a favourable position, and some favourable aim from Khan as well to take down Mexi. That's some nice beams from the controller man himself. That's what you want from your fragger in the team, as looking to try and get another one of all the players that are still rotating through. One of those teams is Akira and Karama, still trying to find a little bit of form in this game as well. Artskill just below Reason and Khan right now. The unfortunate thing about that, Helen, was that they weren't actually able to get any of that loot. Reason sort of looking now backside of zone. Beautiful beam onto Akira, trying to wrap all the way around the builds of the rest of the lobby. So they're sort of looking at all these different angles. Take a look at Akira here. Actually spotted someone out inside of the cone. Beakaboo back to the lobby there in that one. So that's going to give them a nice little boost, a little bit of a llama loop for them to continue through this endgame.
Yeah, they really did not have a whole lot of material count there. I believe 16 builds is what it looked like. It was rocking just then for Truly and Savage. Unfortunately, despite some of their early success, it has now fallen exclusively onto Truly's shoulders to see whether or not he can clutch up yet again. And that is a tall ask this early on. Mini just starting to enter towards the true endgame environment here is Vanya also dancing around a bit, but for Reason and Khan finally making their way towards the high ground. And this is something that the desk also highlighted very early on before today's competition even kicked off. And it's somewhere that we've seen Reason and Khan have so much success, and now Khan kind of trying to figure out whether or not he can get that elimination onto Chicho. Chicho being forced to drop all the way down to where the rest of the congestion is building, but Khan still giving chase. He'll find Panzer for it. Chicho still barely managing to just scrape by here, and Reason healing back up, but won't have any problems making his way towards that next front side. They are going to need more material. Seti dropping down as far as he can go just to reunite with Combeck, and not only that, but needs a moment to try and heal back up. Trying to stick towards that front side of zone, but pressure from hiding just making that so complicated.
Great work here from Khan. They're dropping down, getting eliminations, not getting knocked, not losing HP, getting all of those materials for them to be able to retain that high ground up above right now. Is Truly in a completely different situation. They're looking so healthy. He's looking so weak in terms of everything right now, as Chicho and Skavi are able to power through the rest of the lobby down on the mid ground as they try and elevate themselves. They see that hill coming up. Look who's on height again, though. It's Kovacs and Telio. They'll be hoping that they'll be able to have a little bit more success than they previously have had. They've knocked down the Kings of Height right now and are looking to try and make this game count. Vanya in a bit of a box situation, trying to get out, escapes very well. The Frizzy quite chilling in his position, but one team that's not after looking so good, it's Khan and Reason. The builds are dwindling, the players are dropping, and they're going to have to try and find a refresh.
But they are still managing to stay at least a couple of tiles up from where the rest of the pack is at. Now finally looking for an opportunity to collapse onto Momsy and Skyjump. Another big elimination here for Khan. And that material refresh could be the ultimate difference maker here. Truly, somehow, some way, though, has managed to keep trekking forward, hoping that he fares a bit better here. One tier. Where everyone else is at, but for Vanya, The problems just keep mounting up. Stuck in a corner, trying to play out the Menke, doesn't get a chance, dropped by another player and claimed by the lobby. Go back to Centilio, still trying to see if they can stave off Reason and Calm, but Calm made it towards the front side of zone first, get some punishing shots in, but losing Reason along the way now leaves him as a solo, and he's just so preoccupied with trying to take out other players directly underneath him. Gets one onto Victor, but can't stick around to get the body loop, trying to see if he can connect even more shots. Every little bit counts right now for Khan. He can't waste any moments. He has to try and keep moving forward. Unfortunately, that's going to be his last. He is also taken down, and now Fakey trying to see whether or not he can bring down Kovacs and Dillian.
God damn.
Get that no higher for yet again. Nobody's looking for it because nobody has the materials to do it. Kovacs down to 15 HP. Will find the finish, but will not last any longer. And Chicho now has a solo.
Oh my God.
Team, truly, can you do it? We've seen
elimination.
Savage clutching up so much over the past weekend. Now the shoe is on the other foot, and it's big shoes to fill for Truly right now in this end game. Cactus and Rinzi, one of only 2 duos left in this lobby. The other one, Boris.
There's no way he went, Chad. There's no way.
To try and repair what happened in the heat.
Chad,
They
there's no way
came
he went.
so close. Can they now do it, or is it going to be one of our other
Oh
teams?
my God,
in this
that's not
end
a
game?
relay.
Truly, still as a
Dude.
solo, finds Wi-Fi. That's one of the duos, but can he find
What
the
the
refresh?
fuck?
Still operating so well on these mid-ground layers. Doesn't connect with that shot, retreats on back, and can continue to
No way,
power
Chad.
through.
Another elimination.
Heartbreaking
Dude.
circumstance there also for Truly as the left to
What the
watch.
fuck?
Wi-Fi just narrowly escaped, but now
Yeah, he did,
Truly
he did,
can
he
he
did.
take out Rinzi? He's gotten one in Cactus, but
Top
Rinzi
three
will be able to
fucking
return
good. What the
fire.
heck?
Fakey, who managed to
Dude.
avoid the line of sight from all of this chaos
Oh
that was
my
unfolding
God.
underneath. He was actually going to be the one to
Truly is
get that
fucking
elimination
crazy.
clearance onto Cactus, but Boris now looking for the top, hoping that he can succeed in this 1-versus-1.
prevent a ride from
So that was a great
blasting
game.
into space.
It's nearly last orders at the last chance lobby, but we've got 2 more treats to send your way because all of these duos are desperate to not miss out on the major 2 finals. Let's take a look at the players in focus powered by Milk and see some of the big hitters from tonight's lobby. And that's the only thing about hitting big is it doesn't mean anything if you cannot get a victory royale, Evan.
Yeah, I'm glad you said the last bit at the end, you know, just because it's like, you can play as good as you want, it doesn't mean niche. You have to win. And so, you know, some of these players I think have been, you know, key in almost winning for their teams throughout the data card, right? Obviously, Khan's had some big moments of Reason, Burden, you know, on the height with Zays and Godetti have had some big moments as well on the height. I think we've seen a lot of that height guys sort of step up, but ultimately, yeah, you've got to translate it to the big one.
Yeah, I'm surprised actually that Khan's the most damage dealt because through their matches they went down in like 20-something, 30-something, and one game. This most recent one, Khan popped off. They got 7th, but before that they weren't making top 10s, and he's still topping the charts on damage dealt. So that's quite impressive.
Well, we need to check in with the situation at Frosted Flats because Mertash Tayson are going up against Mr. Savage and Truly in that off-spawn battle to kick off the games. And it's currently 2-1 to Savage.
Yeah, this one was probably the messiest one of all 3 we've seen today. You know, it was close. For a moment, it felt like maybe Mustache was going to turn it around the moment Tayson goes down, but Truly was very quick to come to Savage's aid. Again, I think when the fights are more scrappy, from at least the 3 that we've watched, when the fights are more scrappy, it feels like Truly and Savage are handling those moments a bit better, right? But for Tayson and Mustache, I think the key for the next couple of games will be to just try to stall things out, right? Play, you know, control the pace of the fight a bit more. When Truly and Savage put their foot on the pedal, it just seems that, you know, they're the ones in a better position.
Yeah, and speaking of this most recent match too, Savage did go down quite early, as you can see, but Truly had a phenomenal clutch. I mean, their placements in the games that they've won, the off spawn, they've got an 8th and then 4th in this most recent match. Now, Tayson and Mustache have only won 1, but they did get 2nd in that single match. So what's kind of heart-crushing is that both of these duos perform so well when they make it off spawn, but they're almost at this disadvantage where they just don't have as many matches to actually play out and show what they're made of.
And it's soul crushing for us, I feel like, because Savage and Truly, this is a new duo, but we're seeing the potential of them, and that potential could be cut short if they don't make it through the next 2 games. And Reason and Khan as well. This is a duo that's putting on entertaining performance after performance, and they were blazing a trail through the end game. Unfortunately, though, Khan's chances were cut short, Levin.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's tough. It's tough because the way these guys are playing in a consistency format, right? They'd be looking great, you know, things will be looking good with how they're playing. But yeah, I mean, height is going to be high stakes in this lobby. We know it. We know it's going to be hard to hold on. We know it's going to be, you know, hard to actually avoid just a team just catching you at the wrong timing or just sneaking their way around you where you're not expecting it. But these guys are doing a lot of the right things, and so almost in the same way we had, who was it? iDrop and Marius, not Marius. It was Marius and Phredoxy, sorry, in the heats, who were just going for height every single game. Like, I advise Khan and Reason to just keep doing what they're doing. Try not to fall off of height, of course, but like just keep doing what you're doing, and eventually their win might just come.
Yeah, it was looking crazy for a moment there from Khan. What's interesting about this, though, is when they do take height, the issue isn't the first team that jumps up and tries to contest it. We've seen, you know, Con Reason, they can normally handle that. They can handle the first contestation. It's all the other teams that look up and they're like, oh, there's a build fight happening. There's a few people fighting. Now is our time to strike. We want this win. We want this high ground. And everybody starts piling up and the chaos unfolds. This is what we saw throughout the day. And now with 2 more chances, I don't know. It's going to be really hard.
So you've already mentioned, Levin, you think Reason and Khan should continue going for that high ground. What about the likes of Tayson and Mustache? Say they win this off-spawn battle against Savage Truly. What are you doing if you're them?
Doing what they did in the only other game we got to see them play out, right? As far as just, again, a good end game from these guys where both of them can stay alive, right? I think the key, like the casters keep on sort of, you know, banging on about, is just trying to just keep both players up. Just gives you a fighting chance where you might just stumble into the right amount of loot to just keep you ticking in the game.
And Takata, you are coach for Durden and Godite, doing it for Spain. Now, we've seen them making these fun but risky plays for the high ground. They need to do a Reason and Khan. They need to just keep sending it upwards.
I think the issue with taking those risks is they were the most consistent going into this last match, but they went down a little too early in this match, and they're no longer holding that consistency throne. But you got to take those risks if you want to win one. So I want to see them keep doing it.
And you might as well take those risks, because judging by the end game so far, nowhere is safe. Let's head into game 4 with Mini Miner and Taco.
Only 2 spots remain, and with lobby number 4 just on the horizon, Mini, this is where the pressure and being able to overcome it is really going to start to shine for our leftover competitors. But it is a very, very difficult spot to be in. Absolutely everyone is going to be hunting for that victory royale. So we'll finally get a chance to see who's actually going to bring it home here in game 4.
While the casters were talking, all the analysts were talking, I should say, I made a list of all the teams. Mr. Savage Truly, Mustache Tayson, Chicho Scavi, Nefrizi Vanya, Seti Kombek, Akira Karama, Khan Reason. Big names. And what I noticed about that, it's more than 2. So we'll be seeing plenty of our big names not making it here, but looking at Mr. Savage straight off the bat, already taking down Tayson and Mustache. And Tayson and Mustache on that list are going to have to wait until the very last game now. It's going to be a long half an hour for them. Let's see exactly how that went down. Mr. Savage first to the gun, very quick indeed. Tayson and Mustache trying to switch up their strategy to actually land on Savage and Truly at the slurp truck, and their attempts have not been successful. So yeah, the analysts broke it down, how that fight went. It went in the favor of Mr. Savage and Truly because they just seem to be better in those close range encounters.
Bit of a heartbreaking defeat there too, when you think about it, and they're not the only ones going through it right now. The gloves have certainly come off in this lobby, as TZ and Eyes will be able to claim Cluster Coast. Initially, at the starting point of today's matches, we were seeing these teams knowingly that they're going to be contesting each other, but still willing to sort of have a little bit more distance between the other. But now that is just not the case whatsoever. Reason and Khan strolling on over to where Kombek and Seti are at, and they are not wasting any time whatsoever. Another elimination, another player that's going to be forced to contend with, can I even make it for that reboot opportunity in the first place? But everyone in this lobby just absolutely duking it out. Non-stop action taking place across the map here.
Oh, did all that prep going into the day. You wrote notes, you wrote sheets of things, ripped them all up. We've got 2 more games to go, and that's exactly what all these teams are doing. They are trying anything and everything to qualify through here in this penultimate game. Frizzy and Vanya look like they've been in a bit of a battle earlier on here against Strapito and Domla. This is one of those fights that have just dragged out throughout the entire of the day. They've been at Wonky Number so much longer, and this is where their plan just gets chucked out of the window as well. Domla takes down Nefrizi. Vanya's the next target. Vanya walking up to Domla and unfortunately walking to his demise. Domler and Strapito will finish the fight much quicker. And again, it's an awkward situation for Nefrizi and Vanya. Another one of those big names. They're going to have to do it in the last game here.
Oh man, Nikov, maybe close your eyes and look away for a moment, because this is just so, I think it would just be like a sinking stone in your belly, surely. It is a very tough spot to be in from the players' perspective, and for all those cheering them on also, and just knowing that they are not the only ones in that position. There are just so many top dog teams that you would just expect better from, but it's just that difficult. It is so hard to really get your bearings when everyone in this lobby is just switching things up last second. You can't really expect anything more than just knowing that you're going to probably be surprised at some point, some form or another. There's now Kiri and Yaxie. Got Trappy and Hugo on the run here, but still being a bit patient. Not looking to immediately try to jump into the box, even with the big AC advantages. Actually just looking for the guaranteed angles, the guaranteed safety measures, because they don't want to find themselves too low to try and battle with another team if somebody else should pull up towards City Sanctuary. Fortunately enough for Kiri and Yaxie, they will manage to come out on top. A good set of eliminations to kind of get the ball rolling here, but it's like everyone is shoving that same boulder uphill.
Look at this replay here from Sky Jump, a team that have been sort of roaming the map. And look at that, Domler, Strapito. They would have been celebrating. They still had their party hats on. They've had to take them off pretty quickly after that off-spawn dominance against Nefrizi. So big changes here, as Sky Jump and Momsy, of course, did change drop spots from the beginning of the day, finding some success there finally as well. And this is probably the best position we've seen Sky Jump and Momsy off spawn throughout the entire day. They've now got the entire Wonky Land to themselves. And hopefully, as long as another team don't come flying on through. But this could be their time.
Sky Jump and Momsy, too, they're also a bit notorious for having those unexpected third-party initiation moments. So watch another one come to fruition here. Always a positive start to the day. Axel trying to wager whether or not they're actually going to be able to take out Rytex, but both receiving some battle scars here along the way. Both teams injured enough that they're going to be forced to kind of come to a little bit of a pause in the action here. But all this noise taking place at Sinister Strip, it's definitely caught attention from other players elsewhere. You never want to get too fixated on the immediate box fight that you're sort of into, because you never know when another team's going to pull up just like this. Tricks and Snaked immediately punishing Rytex. Getting caught off guard here, just too tunneled on trying to stare down to do what they'd initially been contending with. Always got to remember to watch your back.
That's the danger, isn't it? That is the danger, particularly at Sinister Strip, such a central location on the map, sort of just south of that big orb, the rift in the middle of the map, the dead center. So that's always the danger when you're flying off spawn there, particularly blocking off angles and showing that there's no other teams that could be finding opportunities to take shots on you. Yapko Panzer, a day to, I suppose you could say forget, really have to say forget, because it's just not been their day. And it feels like we say the same thing every single game, but it just seems like they haven't been able to find a successful end game, a successful mid-game even, you have to say. Just getting to the end game has been a lot of their issues. So interesting to see how they approach things now. Maybe the extra experience they have of playing together for such a long time previously will play a part. But Izzy, Nosif, getting inside of a bit of a fight here. Quick's one of them on the other side of the wall. Nosif looking to try and maybe fake overdrive grenade out. Quick's looking for an angle as well. It seems like, yeah, another team coming on through. Is that Yapko on the other side of the wall? Quick's trying to get inside of a fight as well, and things are really starting to boil over here at Sunken Shores. So many eyes on this fight, so much at stake as well.
The problem right now for Quicks and Zuki is that they're losing the driving position here. But Izzy and Nosif finally going to be brought down to an even level. Izzy now as a solo, but with Yapko and Panzer still just lingering about, this is going to be very complicated. Izzy has actually done enough damage, and so for Zuki to fall that's going to be the ultimate green light for Yapko and Panzer to continue closing in this box fight position. But Quicks hoping they'll have a chance to actually bring his duo back up into the running. Wants to try and make a play for the revive in case Suki can't actually make it into the van itself. And Quicks is doing a great job right now of just defending some of these more exposed angles. Finally going to get a shot to look up. Almost gets an opener onto Izzy. Still, Izzy doing a decent job at just avoiding being on the receiving end.
Oh,
Dastardly shot here. Finally, Quicks gets the opener he's hoping for. Now, trying to get a bit closer to his teammate. We'll try to get the toss off into the reboot van, but that ramp just blocking it a bit here. And with Panzer now lurking, they're going to opt to try and close in fully onto where Quicks and Zuki are at. Had to give up playing for his teammate. Unfortunately, won't be able to see things through for the remainder of the game for that third-party intervention. Just too problematic.
you know what? It's unlucky there because, of course, he was trying to throw his teammate into the reboot van so that he could get revived whilst he was able to fend off Yapko and Panzer. But it was just a wall, I think. Was it brick wall just blocking off the back of the reboot van? So he wasn't able to sort of try and take that 1v2, which was his best chance of survival there in that fight. Just really unlucky. So they're going to have to go all the way to the final game here on Quicks and Co. But for Yapko Panzer, that is absolutely perfectly played really from their side of it as well. Just didn't rush in, didn't take their fight too quickly, looked in the feed to see who went down, which of the duo, whether it was a full duo, whether it was an individual, and closed on it at the absolute perfect moment in sync. So it's going to be a really nice refresh for them to progress through this game. You get a bit of a south zone pull here as well. So many teams still inside of the storm, as has been very prevalent both last season and this season. So expect to see plenty more of that as we continue on in this game. And everyone wants to make it into this end game. You've got to have them go. You've got to make it as late on into the game as possible, no matter what actually happens, no matter how you do it. You want to put yourself in a position to maybe take high, maybe get a refresh. You never know what can happen when it gets to end game. So all those teams in the storm looking to try and do just that.
These players are dropping like flies right now, though. This lobby is thinning out fast, and even with some players managing to be somewhat successful with their reboot opportunities, still a long road to recovery before you can find yourself really in a position to try and convert this into that victory royale that every single one of these teams is sort of seeking out. Skvi and Chicho, though, a bit more isolated from where some of the other action has been taking place. A bit more perched up on height with the opportunity to try and control how this lobby is actually flowing towards their direction. Robin and Shoutouts will start making their way in. Sinister Strip, though, does provide a decent amount of coverage. Largely it's going to be that cube that you got to be careful with, making sure that another team doesn't look to disturb it, send you back in unintended. But, of course, there are just tons of factors that players are having to constantly think about as the game pulls on. Teams also looking to try and make those dead side rotations, hoping that they don't encounter players sort of staking out the vending machines along the way. Reason and Con, they've opted to wrap all the way around. Now heading through Calamari Canyon. Like they're going to look to try and hit one of those vending machines, but of course, as you can tell from the mini-map marks, there are other teams very close by. Like they had
take damage either. The ultimate thing is to do that damage early, take as little damage as possible. Of course, that doesn't include the storm damage, so they can just sort of ride out on the damage that they've already got and then make it into the end game a lot later without worrying as much about surge. What's important, though, of course, is all these teams that are still inside of the storm, they've got to try to avoid those, ensure that they don't end up doing some damage to Reason and Khan, because this is a really nice setup from them. You can see there's a team just ahead of them. We're just sort of perched up by those vending machines. And for Mr. Savage and Truly, we spoke about it earlier, similar strats to Sky and Scroll, similar position that they find themselves in all the way back inside of the storm as well, but the green light has to come on sooner rather than later for them. It's a 2-tick, of course, at the moment, will turn into a 5-tick imminently as well, so now it's time to go. It'll be interesting to see if they've done their homework here as to how Sky and Scroll would approach this position and how they play from this position at this drop spot. because it's really now or never for Truly and Savage, because you can't guarantee that you'll win that off spawn in that final game.
It's not even just about how Sky and Scroll played it, though. You have to remember, Velo and Zynox, they're your Welsh compadre. This is the position where they had their game 1 success in heat number 3 during Sunday's competition. So that's going to be something kind of in the back of both of their minds as they try to replicate their former duo successes there. And they know just how much is really hinging upon this game 4 performance. They don't want to try and have to find that Victor Royale in lobby number 5, because the starting point of the battleground for Savage truly is just knowing that it's just one more lobby of having to fight against Mustache and Tayson.
Yeah, it's like a really big challenge to overcome. And yes, they have had the more success today in that off-spawn fight overall. When you look at the score, it's still no easy task, though. It's still Tayson. It's still Mustache. We saw what they could do in that end game, that they had a really good second. So it's one of those situations where you can't rest on that. You can't think we have an extra game. We have to imagine this is the last game for them, because you just don't know what can happen off spawn. The Skyjump and Momsy, a much better start to their game as well. We spoke about it earlier. They had a lot more loot for themselves. They were able to actually get going within the game. And they're looking to try and get an increase in their amount of damage as well. It's a really important game for them as well, of course. They are a team that we've seen at big events. We've seen them qualifying through formats like this before. I'm sure a lot of the French fans, all the French fans, will be rooting for them in this penultimate game here.
Start to see some of the nerves also taking place, some of these overdrives, making sure you're not bumping into your duo along the way, cutting yourself a bit short here. But Momsy and Skyjump, they make their approach. The likes of Yapko and Panzer. And with the Yapko and Panzer having played Janitor Hill Crew to their mid-game fight, it set them into a pretty decent position. It's probably the best that they have looked in today's competition in terms of loadout and how much material they actually have, but the surge threshold working against them currently. Granted, would almost expect the lobby to drop to 40 rather quickly here. How aggressive everything has been so far. Rosie and Chuck, though, going to be some of the first that Panzer and Yapko tried to get some damage in on, but now they have to worry about the rest of the lobby also looking in on their position. Yapko going to take a different kind of approach, sort of trying to figure out whether or not a new line of sight might work a bit better here, while Panzer just continues to move forward.
Yeah, you can almost use this as well to your advantage. For a team like Reason and Khan just sat next to Panzer and Yapko, they can see the Panzer and Yapko are actually getting very aggressive inside of those boxes. They're trying to spray. As soon as that Storm Surge threshold appears on your screen, you can sort of get a sense of what the teams around you are trying to do. Are they trying to box up? Are they a team that's good on Surge? Or are they a team that are low on Surge? And I think Reason and Khan can sort of identify that. That's why they're sort of retreating here into those fully built metal and brick boxes. They don't want to be the tags that these teams next to them so desperately need. So they're playing their own materials, they're playing their own way, and now they've got to play for a rotate. Difficult rotate for them as well. They do get a little bit split here on this overdrive grenade. We're going to have to get back together sooner rather than later. Reason's just a little bit ahead of Khan right here, so they're going to have to try and get into the same box, which they do without taking damage. So could this be the game here for Reason and Khan? They've set it up so perfectly so far.
One thing's for sure, we know that they are definitely still looking for a height, but first and foremost, they might have to deal with Rickboard and Spotty. They might have even scouted out the fact that there's a team trying to get chipped away at from the Surge Ticks. Chicho, Skabi, different successes though. The only problem being, it might not be able to make it towards that body loot as close as it might appear. They just don't want to forfeit. They feel like it's better positioning, especially not with still needing to make their way into that next zone, but managed to skate by where the bulk of the action was taking place. Lobby now starting to look their way, though. Slight forfeiture of some of their hard material, but they've done a great job of just boxing up.
Yeah, I think they're just about in here as well. So they did have to invest a lot of their materials there. They had to invest a lot of their sort of sight lines as well. A lot of players were looking at them right there, but using that fully built metal to their advantage was really important right there. Truly and Savage, what a game it's going to be for them. What a game it has to be for Truly and Savage. But if there's anyone that can clutch up in the final moments, if there's anyone that can perform when his back's against the wall, when Dowsers have written him off, it is, of course, Mr. Savage. He's done it before. Can he do it again with the new blood of Truly, a player that's just been performing so well individually with whoever he's played with at the beginning of this year. And although this week hasn't really been a week to remember for, truly, I feel like they're starting to come into their own here. The fire is starting to ignite. So for them, this is hopefully where it all starts to get a little bit exciting for them. Panzer with a catch throughout the air as well. There's art skill down and out, and that's a huge refresh for them.
And they also needed that surge so desperately, but for Truly and Savage, can they continue to stoke the flames here? Truly was looking rather solid in that last game. Can't help but wonder what might have gone differently had he still had Savage with them, as opposed to the solo circumstance he was left to try and contend with. But front side of zone, getting a little bit more haphazard here. Teams starting to make their move, but Reason and Khan, they might be the ones to actually shut down Truly and Savage if they're not careful. Still holding secondary height position. Yapko Panzer now recognizing the fact that trying to elevate a bit here, but they know they can't go for ultimate height just yet. Savage and Truly have done it though, but you have to remember, Khan, Reason, they're not going to let this one go for free. They are waiting for a prime opportunity for Savage and Truly to be a little bit more preoccupied. So head on a swivel here, Savage. He's targeting his way through. He's keeping good control of that front side of zone, but they need to make sure that they're suppressing where the rest of the lobby is at. Starting to administer a little bit of damage towards some of the other players in those lower layers, but Momsy catches Flex completely off guard. Great refresh, and it's one that he's going to desperately need. He's running out of material counts, body rolling around inside of his box, still giving him just enough to work with.
Oh no, look at this. Reason and Khan now playing for high. Savage and Truly could hold on to it for a matter of seconds. Khan, though, gets overdrive grenaded way on out. Savage coming up against Reason. Two legends battling it up at the top of the hill right here. Savage reclaims the position. The king of height right now, but so many other teams will be looking at this position right now. So many other teams will be looking at this chaos as potential greenlight to go on through. But on the flip side of things, Tika and Panzo, they are all the way down on low ground. And looking to try and make things happen right there as well. Yapko and Panzo are a team that can perform in this environment. Momsy as well. Of course, a nice elimination earlier, keeping himself going at 18 bills, but
time,
Oh my
forced out of the
God,
box here, a good block
Tell me, Savage,
by
did he
him,
die?
but as a solo
Come on,
himself,
Savage. Come on,
but
bro.
forced to play zone
Tell me,
pullback and
Savage.
save him for a moment, and
show the high ground.
finally,
Savage,
Akira
did he die?
Karama, who's actually still on
Savage
his last
died,
leg, but the
I'm
fact that they
not
are able to pull this one out as a
Come
duo
on,
could
bro.
make
Come
a
on.
big difference here. As Yapko
Come on,
Panzer
Savage.
take a moment to pause, take a
Come on,
moment to
bro.
heal. They got to work their way in
My
though
boy
from
Savage,
that side
bro.
zone, and it is
Oh,
just
you're the high ground. You're
very
the high ground.
treacherous
Check.
territory
Check
to
on the
contend
ground. This
with.
might be the win.
No one can
Come on,
seemingly
Savage. Come on,
challenge
bro.
the
Come
high
on, bro.
ground with the
Risky,
material
risky,
refreshes from
Come on,
underneath.
Savage.
Kurama and Akira hoping to see if game 4
Come on,
is going to be
Savage.
theirs to take
Kurama
away,
way
but
down.
no, Kurama
Kurama
loses
down.
track of
No.
Spotty, who's just
Come on, Savage.
managing to
Nice.
completely spoil
Savage,
their
take it.
hopes.
Bro,
of that
show the high
victory
ground. So
royale.
Savage.
Truly gets
The
the
fuck?
increment there
Nice.
as well. Mr.
Come on,
Savage and
Savage,
Truly
go to the
still
high ground.
maintaining that
Nice,
high ground,
nice.
truly building up
Let's
as
look at
well.
the chest.
There's
Let's
not
look
too
at
many
this. Look
builds
at
on
this.
them right now. As
Let's go,
Yapko and
Savage.
Panzer
Let's go,
are playing on
Savage.
that low ground
Let's go,
section.
Savage.
It's Truly and Savage
Oh,
up
fuck.
on high.
Okay, let's go, Savage.
Saying hello to
Let's go,
another
bro.
player coming on up.
Broski,
It's
come on, bro.
Murray coming on
Come
through
on,
as well.
Truly.
The only solo left in this endgame. Can Truly
Let's
and
go,
Savage
Savage.
finally
Come on, bro.
find their
My
form in
big
this
bro. My
penultimate
big brother,
game
Savage.
of
Come
the
on, bro.
last chance qualifiers?
Savage.
Panzer and Yapko are wounded as
Come on,
Murray
bro.
down there to cause all
Come on,
sorts
bro.
of problems for the low
Come on,
ground team
Savage.
as well. They've got to
Come on,
focus on
Savage.
him before
Come on,
setting their
Savage.
sights on high. And they don't have the
Come on,
build stack
Savage.
goes at Panzer
Savage,
and
come on.
Yapko
Nice,
finally
nice,
find
nice.
one.
Come on, Savage.
But
Come on, Savage.
finds
Come
another.
on.
There
Come on.
it is,
Come on.
Mr.
Come
Savage
on.
and
Come
Truly
on.
down
Come
below.
on. Yes.
Sending themselves straight
Yes,
to
bro.
the major two
Oh my
finals.
God.
Will you ever in
Oh my
doubt?
fucking God.
Better
Let's fucking
late
go,
than
Savage.
never, and what a
Let's
perfect
go.
time to strike
Let's fucking
here.
go, bro.
Everyone was
Oh
asking
my
after
God.
that heat
Big
performance
Savage,
from Truly,
motherfucker.
what does
Big
he
fucking
even
Savage,
do?
motherfucker.
And we've got our
Come on,
answer.
Savage.
Adley does.
Big.
Yes,
Come on.
we do.
Be Carnage.
Truly loves.
Come on, Savage.
He listens from the best.
Let's
So the
fucking
best
go.
is
The best in
Mr.
the world.
Savage. Was there
Come on, too easy.
These guys
Fucking
in
go.
the grand finals, not from us, not from the community, and certainly not from Mr. Savage himself, Levin. He never stops believing.
One word. Script. The script. It's just, you can never doubt the script when it comes to Mr. Savage. Oh, I was on the edge of my seat in that end game. Our producer was in our ear early in the game, and he was like, guys, the script, I can see it already. Mr. Savage is going to win the last game, and it's going to leave the room for Taysom and Massage to have an uncon so that they can potentially win the last game. And I was like, ah, man, this guy's waffling, man. He's dreaming, man. What's going on? And they go out, and they win the game. And to God, not without challenge. We've seen the things that other players have struggled with. When Reason and Faded go up for height against most of the teams in this lobby, most teams roll over. These guys stood full. Big props to Trudy. I feel like he has actually played so well today. And in many instances, we showed that these guys have been in this position to be able to win this game.
Oh, 100%. Definitely been the MVP. I mean, that was a full send from Khan and Reason. They wanted the high ground. They've been trying to consistently fight for it. And Savage truly did not let that slide. Cleaned up the rest of the match. I mean, we were thinking about it, right? There was only one option. There was only one outcome from this match where both Savage and Truly, alongside Tayson and Merstash, could qualify. We only had 2 matches left. We only had 2 spots left. I know there's fans both rooting for Savage Truly and Tayson Merstash. You don't want to see these 2 duos clashing against each other, and one of them had to qualify in this match. They had to, if we wanted to have that little chance of both of them making it through. But now with one last chance, one last match, one last opportunity, there's only one more duo we can send to the grand final.
Oh, I know, it's so hard for all of these duos, but just before we say a final congratulations for now to Trudy and Savage, just props to this duo, because it could be so easy for them to have gone their separate ways after disappointment. The fact that these two have stuck by each other, Savage has seen the potential in Trudy. Trudy has managed to fight like this under the pressure of knowing he's being watched by Savage's community, who are probably very disappointed in what happened. So probably put the blame on Trudy, because they're not going to blame it on Savage, who they followed for years. But now we see what these guys can do. Let's see if they can repeat that in the grand finals, and let's see who's going to be taking the final spot in that lobby after the break.
I know there's fans for Savage or Savage and Tayson Merstash. You don't see these 2 duos clashing against each other. Everyone's
Wait, if you have it, like...
Milk can help you grow. Milk can't prevent your ride from blasting into space.
So this is it. In a few minutes, we'll be heading into the last game of the last chance qualifier for the Major 2 Grand Finals here in Europe. Things are going to be incredibly tense for us on the desk, and they're going to be even tenser for the Duros waiting to board the battle bus. So let's talk about some of the favourites going into this final game, guys, because we have to talk about Reason and Khan. They have been on fire with so many near misses tonight, but this is a duo that's going to capitalise on the fact that low ground is becoming more free for them. Levin, what do you think?
Well, high ground is becoming more free, right?
Last game, I'm so sorry.
They were the only ones that went up for it. And look, last time around, I made the comparison to Fredoxy and Marius, and their story in Heats was very much going for high every single game, and he didn't get the win until the final one. Reason and Khan are going to be looking for a similar story. We know what's going to happen in the final game. They're going to go up for it. It's a guarantee. They are going to go up for it. They will just hope that they can actually hold it this time.
Yeah, look at those placements, though. 20th, 34th, 7th, 17th. I mean, they've been trying really hard to go for it, but there was only one game where they actually held on to it for a decent amount of time. They ended up getting 7th, but you need the win. 7th isn't going to do it.
Yeah, I have no idea why I said low ground just then. I think thinking about the pressure that all of these guys are under, because we have seen these guys time and time again go for that high ground. Interestingly, I can't say the same for Yapko Panzer, because they haven't been making the very end of the end game, shall we say. I think the last game was the first time we've seen them make zone 12 in the entirety of the Major 2 broadcast, Takata, but when they make it to the end game, they really do look like they are contenders for that victory royale.
Yeah, this match specifically was an incredibly solid performance, but it seemed like every player down below was out of mats at this point. There was one player that got a big refresh. I think it was Akira, and truly instantly took him down, took all those mats for himself, and Yapko Panzer were just kind of left swimming in the waters as they were dropping lower and lower HP, and Savage truly ended up with a pretty quick and easy cleanup, to be fair. So hopefully this second place can motivate Yapko Panzer to do it once more.
Yeah, I think my biggest worry is that, motivation aside, their problem has been the ability to get to end games with any sort of consistency while actually being in a, somewhat stacked, comfortable position. Even in that last game, they had their fair share of struggles with Surge. They were just able to, really fight themselves out of it. And so, again, going into this last game, is it just going to be a repeat of what we have seen the majority of the time for this duo? I certainly hope not, because they're in that last game. They showed us just how electrifying they can be, how big of a threat they can be. It's why we highlighted them at the start of the day. And yeah, again, coming that close, second place. We're going to say, every time someone comes second place, we're going to say it. Second place in that scenario, it just stings quite a little bit.
And Akira Karama, they also came very close in those final moments of Game 4. Also sticking out on the low ground, a really hard Heatwave Harbour Shore to contend with Takata. But these guys are warming up, and we know that they are capable of a victory royale.
Yeah, big match for them. That's the refresh I was talking about that they picked up. And what's interesting is Savage truly held height the whole time. I mean, Game 1, 5 different teams were height. Game 2, 5 different teams as well. Game 3, 4 different teams. But in this fourth game, it was only Savage truly. They were so dominant, applying that pressure from above, taking out Akira as well. Nobody could successfully overthrow them. So now without them in the lobby, we'll see if Akira Karama can get a better placement.
Well, we are nearly ready to go into our final game. There's one duo in particular we have not had the chance to speak about yet, and that is Merstash and Tayson. We know they're going to have the flats to themselves, guys, unless anyone decides to try and take up residence where Truly and Savage left off. It's going to be interesting as we look at them at the start of this game, but if they are uncontested, if they can have a successful mid-game, Takata, would you predict them to take this victory royale like our producer did earlier today?
Look, I was doubting going into the last match. I was doubting the one game they won off spawn, though. They got second place. And if you want to do better than the one time you got off, the only option is to win the match.
11.
Look, it's going to be a tough one, right? This weekend, we're going to have one of the best finals in EU we've had in a long time. And every single player in this lobby wants to be a part of that party. Only 2 players will get the chance. Will it be Taste and Mustache now having Uncon? Will it be, Reason and Khan finally having height potentially uncontested? I'm gonna lean towards Reason and Khan in this case, but I think there's so many different teams, so many different players who will be in a good spot to fight for it.
Well, there are so many big names in this lobby yet to qualify, but what we've learned from the heat so far is when the victory royales are on the line, anyone can take it. Count no one in this lobby out. Let's head to game 5 with Taco and Mini Miner.
Find myself having a hard time disagreeing with what Levin just said there, though, Mini, because can't help but wonder if Truly had not confirmed that elimination onto Khan when they were initially being challenged for height, would we have been looking at a Reason Khan Victory Royale in Game 4? But now, the last chance to strike is about to play out, and I mean, Game 5, right here, right now, so many players hoping to keep the Major 2 Grand Finals dreams alive, but only one team can really succeed.
Which team will that be? We're about to find out in our very last game of the day, and of a day of real electric gameplay from so many of our players. We've seen height take different forms in different games, different teams on it, different teams fragging out on low ground as well, and some teams that just will not give it up. And for a team like Reason and Khan, that will be hiding. And for a team like Mustache and Tayson, that's this drop spot. And unfortunately, it hasn't been the day to remember in terms of off-spawn fighting. They haven't been the better team off-spawn. That's a fact. But what is a fact right now, and another fact for them, is that they've got one game here of uncontested flats to themselves to make something happen here. And it's now or never for them.
But even with it being uncontested, it still kind of shifts their original game plan. Some of the early surge, for example, if you win that off-spawn battle, you're not going to have to look to try and recover from A bit of a mess
My bad,
here.
chat.
A couple other duos surrounding them.
Chat, this is the last game. This is the last game of EU. I will be live for NA. I'll be live for NA later, chat. I will be live for NA later. Make sure you go like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and
sort of rush
subscribe.
just yet.
FSCS time, baby.
We'll take the
It's
chance.
FSCS time, chat. Like and subscribe. NA is later, chat. NA is soon. In 4 hours is NA time, baby. Like and sub. Like and sub. Like and sub. I have not
exclusively down to
missed
whether
any
or
single
not they can actually
grand
bring it
final,
back
chat.
with the game
Like
5
and sub.
victory
Like
royale.
and
It would be
sub.
just the
Like and
ultimate
sub.
saving grace on the day for every single one of these teams, but
Yeah.
it's just so heartbreaking when you know only one duo can actually.
Like and sub, chat.
So
Like and sub.
heartbreaking. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
it's
like
tough to get
and
come out of it
subscribe.
today
Like
at a
and
competition
subscribe.
like this where you
Like
might think,
and
yeah, you know what, we
subscribe. Like
deserve
and
to qual.
subscribe.
We played well enough to qual. We did well enough
Like
to
and
get
sub.
a win. But if you don't,
It's
it
FSCS
just doesn't
time.
mean
Like and sub.
anything at all. So for some of our teams that, of course, for most of our teams that won't make their way into the major 2
Like and
finals,
subscribe. I'm trying to hit
it's really
1K sub.
just
Like
tough
and sub,
situation
chat. Like
to
and
find
sub.
yourself in, and of course being able to pick yourself up mentally is going to be really important. But of course, what's going through these players'
Like
minds right
and
now is
sub,
that we
like
be
and
that
sub,
team. Why
like
not
and
us?
sub. I
It's
live
been 4
every
teams
day.
prior. Why can't
I mean,
we
not every
be
day.
that
I live
final team? It has
someday.
to be somebody. So the players like Torquil
Like
and Deucey
and
just
sub,
haven't
chat.
had
Like
the day
and
to
sub.
remember
Like and
at all.
sub.
They've
Like
just been
and subscribe. Like
overrun in a
and
lot of
subscribe.
areas,
Like
particularly
and
early on in the
subscribe.
game, just not being
Like
able to
and
get the
subscribe,
game
chat.
going.
Like and
It's
subscribe.
often been the case, I feel like, in
Like
these sort of
and
lobbies
sub,
where the
like
final
and
game
sub,
winner
like
isn't
and
always a
sub.
team that's played really well throughout
Like
the day and
and
that's been
sub, like
consistent,
and
that's
sub,
got into
chat.
the end
Like
game.
and sub.
Sometimes it has been the case where someone just comes out of complete nowhere at the bottom
Like
of the
and
leaderboard
sub,
and then does
like
find
and
the win.
sub,
So
like and
do
sub.
not count any of these guys out. Looks as though Lixium has been able to be revived, but unfortunately,
This
straight
is the
back
last
down,
game
straight
of the day.
to another reboot
Reason
potential here
with
for
one
Hydra, but
elimination.
it's an absolute surge farm
To
here
Elif
for
for
Reason and
Ruffin.
Khan, who can get their second
Can
of the game.
Reason take the
And
last game
second
of
on
the
Lixium.
day? He big go for high
And
round
this
back
is
to back
very
to back.
likely why they'd even opted to not give
But
chase to Hedra.
Mr.
at the
Savage
starting
would get
point.
number
Even
2.
with that
I mean,
elimination
get number
on
4.
Lixium, they knew eventually Hedra wouldn't
Congrats to
have
Mr.
many
Savage.
opportunities aside from heading even
That's
further
my
north
big
to
bro
try
right
and
there.
make that reboot play
Went
possibility
to
here.
game and
So
went to the grand
Common
finals.
Reason just more
which
than
I'm happy
content.
about it.
Get that additional search farm. Now they'll start making their way
Mr.
down.
Gorridge.
Zone pool, maybe a bit more favorable also
Mr.
for Con
Gorridge.
and Reason. But look
Yeah,
at what's
Reason,
brewing just above Seti and Combek. To be trying to get their own little taste of vengeance here after what took place in Game 4.
You reckon Reason heard that? You reckon he heard the bush? Because he's just boxed up. Looks as though he might have heard it. Combek definitely made themselves known right now. We might get a round 2 of the fight that we saw earlier on. I wonder if Seti and Combek know that this is Khan and Reason, or if they're just disengaging for the sake of it, because we know how that fight went down early on in the last game. And I'm sure if you're a Seti fan and a Combek fan, you do not want that fight to be going down again. So smart disengage there from their perspective.
Yeah.
Other teams, slightly more calm position. So Ferozi continuing to try and keep tabs on where other players in this lobby might start sort of making their way in. The next edge of zone, Akira and Karama off in the distance. Skos and Clays for the team that's postured a little bit closer towards that next edge of zone. Svia and Chicho, again, initially a team that had been marked to contest Combek and Seti.
Like it sub, like it sub,
go
like it
elsewhere.
sub.
Formulated an entirely different type of game plan.
Like
but
it sub. It's
Here
FSCS.
today,
Like it sub.
when it's just a win and you're in style format, Chicho and Skvi, we've seen moments where it looks like they might be able to just get the job done, but fallen short. And this is where you've really got to try and keep that mental fortitude going strong. And it's not easy, especially when you find yourself in those like top 5 positions, for example. But they look to be set pretty well. 627 above the surge threshold. Nice surge base to kind of keep tabs on where the rest of the lobby is flowing in from. Yapko and Panzer, they could find themselves in a very, very spot if they're not careful.
Tough for Chicho and Skvi, because you play like that in Heat. Well, so it's like they've been so consistent.
Yeah.
They've had 3 top 5s, one of which are the 4th. The other 2 are 5th. Eliminations to boot. it's like they've played really well. It's just not well enough for this format, and
picked the wrong
that's
day.
something that's gonna. Yeah, he had literally picked the wrong day. It's like I knew that last weekend, and you'd have been absolutely laughing. But different lobby, different circumstances, different sort of pressure that players play under, of course, in this sort of lobby. Mustache and Tayson, though, you know, they managed to make their way off spawn. Now uncontested, no eliminations for them so far. Huge game needed from them. We saw little glimpses of early days of Tayson when he was considered the GOAT. We saw little glimpses of what Tayson and Mustache were like when they won FNCS back in 2023 Major 1 and 2024 Major 1, I think it wasn't even. We saw plenty of it, and we just need to find that little bit of extra in this final game. Just dig deep, find something, find what's within you for Tayson and Mustache to rekindle that success that we've had in Major 1s of past, and forget what happened in the last one, because it's all up to them.
Exactly that is now Boy Home Boxo. Get a little bit of damage from Gordete and Zai's there on the way out, but still managing to stay above that surge threshold in a pretty decent spot here. Now looking to see if they can get some return fire in, but not actually able to translate it just yet. Looking back though, what Khan and Reason have been getting up to. Great drop there by Khan. It's definitely been a bit of a marksman throughout the course of today's action, but again, the main reason why we have seen some of those mid-tier placements from Reason and Khan is because they are one of the few teams here today that they have played every single lobby exclusively looking for the win. And sometimes when you opt for that, you know, go big or go home play style, and you're unable to get the conversion that you would hope for, you know, the placements I don't think do justice for how well Reason and Khan have actually been performing on the day.
Yeah, I completely agree. They've been really good. I think, you know, it's one of those where, again, it's the lobby where people are going to try and take height. They're going to try and overthrow it as many times as possible. So in any other lobby, maybe where teams are trying to play for those consistency points, maybe they would hold on to height a little bit longer. But they've had enough practice now. You know, they've had 4 games of trying to go for it. One of the better height teams in the lobby, of course, out of it. A few of them now, of course, out of it. So it's like, realistically, this is the best chance you've got as a team that wants to play height. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot of other teams, even teams that don't usually play height, will be looking for it. Was that combat there just getting absolutely beamed by one of the SETI, one of the Mustache and Tayson duo. SETI now looks like he's got to pick up the pieces. Combat down to just 1 HP almost, as Panzer and Yapko looking to try and rekindle some of that success they had in that last game as well. They got really unlucky, actually. There was that sort of player in between them, wasn't it? It was Bari that was just causing them a few problems before Savage and Truly then crumbled on down. But they played it well. Everything about that game was exactly what we were hoping from them throughout the day. They just couldn't put the cherry on the cake. So for now, they've got to try and do that.
Take a moment to stop and look back, though. Get some additional damage in. Mustache and Tayson looking very favorable in this exchange. Possibly even got the audio cues that Sko's claimed by the lobby alongside his duo plays. Just carving out a little bit of space for themselves. Able to pick up that secondary refresh body loot whenever they make their way over to it, but right now, possibly even fixated on the fact that they can hear players just overhead navigating through the area that they are currently boxed in. SETI, Combeck, a little bit more smothered here. Just a bit of crouching and lurking along the way, but they are definitely in need of a huge turnaround here. Combeck not even getting the chance to try and recover, just barely managing to keep himself standing. Will manage to make it back to where SETI is at, but they took a lot of damage just moving a couple inches forward. 192 below now. They're gonna have to start getting active, start getting fraggy. And they've got to be exact with their next few movements, because they cannot afford to eat any more damage. They're already having to contend with some of these surge ticks as is, and Combeck, hardly anything left in that chug jug now. It's eliminations or bust right now for this team.
It has to be. It has to be. They've lost all their damage from just Combeck getting beamed on no SETI there, getting found out from below. They were in so many different teams as Domain, and now Combeck has got to try and do a little bit of clutch of his own. We saw Seti doing it so often during the heat, and of course, a little bit today as well. And now it's Combeck's turn to try and make some magic happen. Unfortunately for him, every single possible metric is against him. Health not looking so good, no shield, no surge, having to jump inside of the box, looking to try and find an angle, gets the wall, nice shot there, but not going to be enough to actually take the player out. There's still 218 below the threshold. He can't take damage. He has to do as much as he can. There's a little bit of a moment to breathe here. And somehow, some way, Taka, Combeck is still in this game.
Just narrowly managing to get off the last bit of his healing resources, but it was such a short-lived victory. Fortunately, we had just been spectating the beginning of the end there for Seti and Combeck, and they will not be able to make it out this last chance lobby. Mumsy Skyjump, though,
Sad.
trying to take control of their own destiny here. You have to figure that Jason Mustache, similarly, trying to avoid their own set of woes against the threshold. Down to 70 above.
If I was in this lobby chat, I like.
Off of
Who is this in the high ground?
But again, just still so.
I got to cast in the last game of the day.
It's so hard for them to actually try and build up polarity without this congestion that they've been encountering inside.
Mr. Savage Qual, I am happy. I'm happy for Mr. Savage. By what reason? And Mustache
also making it just so.
One of them has to take
it's just such open area for the most part.
But
not a whole lot of elevation shift,
a different duo that want to take it. Our reason to take the last game of the day.
That's going to be
this is the last game. If you win, you go to the grand final. If you don't win,
challenging them above.
I don't know. It's kind of like over, but I think you will have the last chance to go to the global championships. This is the last game. Tasted 5x. Mustache with 0 kill. Tasted with 3 kill. Tasted is the GOAT of EU. Back then, he was the GOAT. Like, chapter 4, Tasted was crazy. But, man, it's going rough for them. 3-1 off spawn against Mr. Savage. Now, can they win the last game of the day? Skyjump, 70 points. They have to win. If you don't win, everything is over. If you die, everything is over. Seti back to the lobby. He have to wait. I don't know. He might have to wait for the last chance. Goebbels, Yapko, and Panzer. 2 elimination for Yapko. Can they take the last game of the day? Easy on the high ground. Reason we're down. Kane as a solo. 86 point for Kane. 1 HP. He's trying to figure out 2 chug jug. He has to pop 1. Unfortunate. 69 build for Kane. Katie's take it as a solo. I don't think it's gonna be impossible. But can he take the last game of the day? No, see on the high ground. Easy on the high ground. Can he there take the win? High ground is all matter. If you have the high ground, if you secure the high ground very well, you will get the win. This game is stacked. Station went down. Mustache back-to-back pump. Oh my God, Mustache. Now he have a chance. But unfortunately, Mustache back to the lobby. He have to wait another chance. Everything is over. Yapko and Panzer still going 140 points. 2 elimination for Yapko. Big pump. Panzer still going. 3 elimination for Yapko. 1 for Panzer. Can they take the last game of the day? I hope they can stay. Win the game. Big pump again. Big pump again. Oh my God. Big pump again. 3 elimination for Yapko. Frozy on the low ground. 0 elimination for both of them. Can they take the last game of the day? Oh, full box. Come on. Full box. 200. Oh shit. They didn't even take the win. They don't even take the elimination. Yapko is still going as a solo. 2 jug jug. He tried to pump the jug jug. But he have a little bit of time to pump it. Have a chance. Can he still go as a solo? There's no way you win this. There's no way can win this game. If you win this game, I'm going to be. Oh my God. Can he take the last game of the day as a solo? I don't think it's going to be possible. Fatsa is still going. Oh my God, 134 point. Can they go to the global championships? Cole Force is still going. Flex, big pump, 200. Get the fuck out my lobby. 4 point for Flex. Can they take the last game of the day? They have the high ground right now. Oh my God. Reason, Ken is still going. He's still fighting. He's saying, Reason, watch this. I'm not giving up. Another big pump. Oh my God. Ken, there's no way. No way he win this. There's no way. Unfortunately, he went down. Easy. Take the kill. Can he take the win? Come on, King. But Easy. Take the last game of the day. Oh my God. Let's go, Easy. What a game. Let's fucking go, bro.
Game height was looking pretty free for them, but then it started to tumble on through. So many players were looking up for it, but they held strong. They didn't let that affect
Easy
them.
went to last game of the day. I'm proud of that. I am proud of that.
Game, Des, over to you.
He's not a big name, but
congratulations to Iggy and Nosef. It's been a difficult major two so far for them, but no regrets now because they are in the grand finals. We know they're a team that loves the high ground. The first time we finally get to see them actually on it, dominate. They take the victory royale and earn themselves that final spot to Carter.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better feeling than winning a Game 5 to qualify you to the grand finals. Your literal last opportunity, last chance to make it. The final duo to get through. And their previous matches, I'm going to read it off, 45th. 37th, 19th, 10th.
I'm proud of them.
The first game, they even broke into the top 10, and once they broke in, they won the match.
Let's go.
What an incredible performance, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you look at this team and how they changed this last game, it's the final game in this type of format. You're expecting hype to just be a disgusting mess. And they just did not allow that to happen. Most people we saw throughout that endgame, a bunch of people were looking up, right? Miniman Okoye was like, yeah, there's a couple teams who every rotation they're making is with the intention of looking up to see when they can take height. These guys just didn't allow it. And so props to them. It's a messy finish, but who cares, man? These guys are two players who are more than good enough to be playing in this major final. It's good to see them finally make it, and even if it took them till that last game, then there was always gonna be one French duo that made it through this round, eh?
And we saw these guys play out on Summit. They definitely picked up some attention there. So it'll be good to see what they can do now they're in the grand finals. And they'll be joined by these other four duos that took victory royales earlier tonight. So let's remind ourselves of them. Wheat and Cyanide picking up the first one. That
congratulations to Savage, extremely man. Oh my God, I'm excited for this duo. I feel like they can't get top
of Savage
10
and
grand final.
Making it through.
I feel like Mr. Savage can top 10.
It better. You could not script it better. I mean, maybe
really
won
great.
This last game, but I was
Mr.
super happy
Savage
for
is the
Izzy and
200
Nosef. All
man.
the 5 qualified duos
I feel like he can
deserve their
get top
spot
10 in
the grand finals. And I'm sure they're going to put on a show for us.
Really
well,
like today.
This weekend, because it's been a really interesting major so far. A lot of the duos have had wobbles here and there, apart from one duo in particular, 11-2K, Shark and Teeny. When you think ahead to the grand final, do you think they are going to be unstoppable?
I mean, yeah, of course, that's, the easy prediction to make, right? These guys are top players and they've looked incredible this season. And yeah, I'm sure we're going to have a fun final. Commiserations to all the players in this lobby, right? There's a lot of really good players in this lobby who haven't made it through to this final. The road to global championships isn't over, even if this season's FNCS is for them guys, right? Of course, there's still the global's last chance that we'll see. And so, some of these players, I think obviously the first instinct is going to be, I need to get rid of my teammate. Who am I going to play, the next tournament with? But, some of them as well, I'd love to see some of them stick. I think there's signs there with a couple of these duos that, maybe you put in some work, maybe you got to pick up a coach or something and you can make things work.
Takata, who do you want to see stick together from this lobby?
Who do I want to see stick together? That's a tough question. I mean, Reason and Con were doing really well. Seti and Comeback, it looked tough in the heats. There was a lot of solo kind of clutches that were coming through, and it kind of led a bit to their demise. But maybe some chemistry can be built, but it's always hard to tell.
Well, we'll be looking ahead for those Euros to August 14th. That's when we're going to have the last chance major, and that will be their last opportunity to earn themselves a spot in the Global Championships in Antwerp. As for the Euros that have qualified for the Major 2 finals, there are 9 spots, and of course, all of them want to win the Axe of Champions. So join us on Saturday when their journey continues. As for us, though, that's all we've got this evening, but North America's last chance qualifier is coming up. You don't want to miss it, so don't. Right now from us in Europe, let's sound that horn.
Alright guys, I'm gonna end here, chat. Yo chat, I'm gonna end here. I have to end for EU here. I have to end, hold on guys. I have to end for EU here, chat. I have to end for EU here. I will see y'all later for NA Central. Is in like 4 to 3 hours. No, 3 hours I feel like. So yeah, NA is on 3 hours. I will be back in 3 hour chat for NA. We got Canada and like a lot of big bro, I think. Still. Yeah, Canada, Bucky, and more. Yeah, and it will be exciting. And it would be exciting. I want Canada to qualify. I want Bucky to qualify. If Bucky can get the win, man, I will be happy for him. I love Bucky. He's a funny guy. I want him to win. I want him to qualify and go to the grand final. Even if he don't win or don't get top 10, I still be happy with him. I hope Bucky qual, and I hope Canada qual too. I think Canada will qualify. It's kind of like an easy lobby. Everyone already made it. Clicks, Peterbot, Acorn. Everyone already made it. So Code already made it. So yeah, Canada is the only one left to take the win. I feel like Canada and Space will get the win in the first match. You always see tonight. Bye guys. I'm gonna end here. Yeah, I'm gonna end here, and I will be back for NA. Yeah. Ciao, ciao. I'll see y'all later. GG's.